you're too busy to notice.
My grades will drop, and you'll yell at me for not trying.
I don't see my friends anymore.
And you think it's good that I'm always home.
We are sending you signals every day.
I need you to look.
I need you to listen.
And ask me if you can help.
Ready to look. Get ready to listen. And ask questions. There is help.
Sending you signals every day.
We are sending you signals every day. We're sending you signals every day.
I'll be feeling sad, but you're too busy to notice.
My grades will drop, and you'll yell at me for not trying.
I don't see my friends anymore.
And you think it's good that I'm always home.
We are sending you signals every day.
I need you to look.
I need you to listen.
And ask me if you can help.
Ready to look. Get ready to listen. And ask questions. There is help.
Sending you signals every day.
We are sending you signals every day. We're sending you signals every day.
I'll be feeling sad, but you're too busy to notice.
My grades will drop, and you'll yell at me for not trying.
I don't see my friends anymore.
And you think it's good that I'm always home.
We are sending you signals every day.
I need you to look.
I need you to listen.
And ask me if you can help.
Ready to look. Get ready to listen. And ask questions. There is help.
Sending you signals every day.
Good afternoon, everyone.
We're sending you signals every day.
I know it's raining outside, y'all, but let's get a little bit more energy. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you guys so much for coming out.
You think it's good that I'm always
Thank you guys so much for coming out. My name is Melisha Olayeni, and I am your host for tonight. Welcome to our mental health awareness seminar. You guys are in for a great treat. We're gonna show a cue card later on during the program, so you guys will be able to post your questions. All right, that's better, thank you. So we're gonna show a cue card later on so you guys can upload it and post your questions when it comes time to question time, okay? At this time, we're gonna have a short skit.
Ooh, I just got this, my daughter's report card from the school. She always does so well. I'm so excited, I can't wait to see these grades. She's always on honor roll. What? Nina, get in here right now.
Yes, Mom.
Come here.
Yes?
What's going on? What's this?
My report card.
Your report card. Nina, what's wrong with it?
I don't know.
Okay, let me let you know what's wrong with it. What? Calculus. 28. 28. When I was going to school, that's a failing grade. What? Biology. Chemistry. 49. Okay. PE. The class we got us do is run and jump. 65.
Mom, high school is different.
Nina.
Everything is different this year.
I never have to worry about you.
Maybe you should have worried this time.
Nina, explain yourself.
Mom, there's nothing to explain.
There's a lot to explain.
I can't do this, Mom.
Where you going? Nina! I don't understand. What's going on? I don't understand. You know what? I know that she's been a little bit drawn, but still, I still don't know what's going on. She failed every class.
Nina, feeling hopeless and like she's let her mother down, Nina ran to an empty park as she think about the fight with her mother. She began to cry because she never argued with her mother. Meanwhile, the mother was sitting at home crying. She was worried about her daughter as she recalls her daughter isolating herself, agitated, and withdrawn.
Dear Mom, I'm writing you this letter to say goodbye. I feel like I'm not welcome here, at school, anywhere. And I know you love me, but I don't feel like I need to be in this world anymore. There's nothing left for me here. Can't believe I'm doing this, but I have to. There's no other way.
Okay, Lord, if this is you, send me a sign. I'll do it if it's you. Send me a sign. Okay, I'm gonna go. Excuse me, ma'am. What? Lord, you're gonna have to step in. Ma'am, what do you want? You know, I don't want anything from you. I see that you're very upset.
I can't be bothered right now.
You know, I know what it feels like to be going through something.
Well, you don't know what I'm going through.
Can I know your name?
What do you need to know my name?
Just so I can talk to you a bit better.
Why do you need to talk to me? What does it matter?
I see you're going through a lot. Is it all right if I sit beside you?
Sit if you're gonna sit. My name is Nina.
Nina, what's going on, girl?
You wouldn't understand. You look like you have it all together, cute and all.
Baby, this bag is from the Dollar Tree, okay? We all going through some things. I just want to be a help to you. What's going on?
Well, I've been going through some stuff at school. Everyone is always bullying me, and I feel like nobody likes me. Nobody likes the way I dress, the way I walk, the way I talk. Everything is always frowned upon. And then I get home, and the person that should understand me, my mom, she's always just wondering, do I have an A? And if I have an A, then everything is good. But everything is not good, and everything is falling to pieces.
Oh my God, can I give you a hug? Is that okay?
No, thank you.
All right. Well, Nina, I just want you to know that, you know, in life, especially in the school age, you're gonna go through some things. It's gonna be rough, but there's a man that I know that when he steps in, regardless of the situation, it starts to look like you can survive it. His name is Jesus.
Who's that?
Nina, he's a man that died for our sins, and I just know whatever it is that you're going through, you can talk to him about it. I know you said you feel like you can't talk to your mom. She only wants A's from you.
Yeah, it's like I can't do anything below an A, or else I'm not worthy enough to be her daughter.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. I understand that. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Well, I see that you were writing something. Can I ask what you were writing about?
A goodbye letter.
Goodbye? Like, are you going out of town, or?
I don't want to talk about it. No.
Well, I think that this is something you need to discuss, at least with your mom. Where is she?
She's at her house.
Do you maybe want me to go with you to talk to her about what's going on?
I mean, I don't think it would help, but if you would, please.
I think we should pray before we go, and I'll definitely tag along if you'll have me.
Okay.
Father God, I lift up my sister Nina to you, Jesus. For you know her heart and you know her struggles. Lord, I ask that as you have instructed me to sit beside her and talk with her today, that you will also help her to know that you are with her. I ask that as we are about to go and speak to her mother, that you may touch her mom's heart so that she can hear Nina and hear what she's been going through. In Jesus' name, amen. Come on, girl, let's go.
Where is this girl? She just ran out of here. She's been gone for hours. She's failing. I don't know what's going on. Where is Nina? Nina! Girl, where you been? Were you crying? What's wrong?
I went to the park.
The park? Why? You ran out here to go to the park?
Because you weren't being, like, I don't know, I didn't feel comfortable.
With your mother.
Mom, you were
Who is
always
this?
upset.
Who
See,
is
this
this?
is what I mean.
Oh. Hi, ma'am. My name is Sydney. I met your daughter at the park.
You met her at the park?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she show you her grades? Look, failed everything.
Nina, girl, you ain't said all of this in the park.
Everything.
Okay.
Even PE.
The jump around and hip hop PE.
How am I supposed to pass PE when the kids are busy fighting me and bullying me, pushing me, locking me in the locker room?
How about we do this? I think that we should have a seat so we can really get down to the bottom of what's going on. You all can sit on the pink couch. I'll sit here. Okay. Ooh, Nina, girl. So,
What are you crying for?
I was writing you a letter in the park
A letter? Why?
to say goodbye.
Goodbye. Where you going? You're only 14. Where you going?
Away.
And where, Nina?
I wanted to be gone.
Gone where?
Dead.
No, sir. Nina! No. No child of mine. No. What do you mean dead? What's going on?
If you don't want me and people at school don't want me, then who wants me?
Nina, I want you. I love you. What are you talking about? What?
You're always upset because I'm not perfect.
No, nobody's perfect. Am I perfect? Am I the perfect mother? Nina, no, this cannot be. No. We need to seek help. We need to seek help. There's no way. My daughter, no.
so as you can see, ma'am, there's some things that she hasn't felt comfortable to talk to you
I
about.
have no idea.
And Nina, I think this says to you that the people who are around you, they love you and they want to talk
Nina,
to
I
you, but
love you.
you have to open up to them.
But Mom, why don't you ever ask? Can't you tell that something was wrong?
After a while, and when you left, I kind of started thinking, and I noticed that you've been a little withdrawn, but to the point, Nina, I had no idea. And I'm sorry. If you think that I failed you, I'm sorry. But we need to seek help. There's no way you're going to take your life. I love you.
And I love you too, Mom.
And see.
Suicide is not an option. Make sure you speak to somebody.
Thank you so much, ladies. How many of you guys learned something from that little skit? Can I get a raise of hands of somebody who learned something? Good. Once again, welcome to our mental health seminar. And on behalf of Bishop George and Reverend Mrs. Victoria Creppy, thank you guys so much for being here today. So I'm going to give you guys a few statistics before we get into the heart of everything, okay? I'll stand to the side a little bit so I won't be in the way. Can we zoom in out just a little bit? If we can, just let me know. No? Okay. So I'm just gonna, the corners that are cut off, I'm just gonna read that part to you guys. So it says 1 in 5 US adults experience mental health. And in the center we see 1 in 20 adults experience serious mental health. Now, what do you guys think is the difference between the mental health illness versus a serious mental health illness? Show of hands. Can we get her a mic so she can answer the question? Thank you, dear.
Well, the first thing that popped in my mind was mental health is when someone is not thinking about taking their life, but serious mental health is when they feel like that's the only hope. That's the first thing that popped in my mind.
I like that. Anyone else? It's not a trick question, and no answer is the wrong answer. Y'all didn't think you was coming to school today, huh?
I think the difference is that functionality Like, there's a difference between depression and severe depression. The difference is that when you are severely depressed, you are not able to function most times. So I think about an example like that, and that's how I rationalize.
Yes, so both answers are correct. When you're thinking of 1 to 5 individuals who have mental health, that's just saying they're diagnosed with something. But when you go down to the seriousness of it, they're either suicidal, they're either in the hospital, in a long-term care. Serious means that they're in the danger zone. As Serena said, for example, with depression, depression ranges from mild, moderate to severe. When we're at the severe level, oftentimes we don't want to be here. Oftentimes we're in the hospital. We're doing really intense therapy. And for others, they're in a long-term residence for about 90 days, 6 months, even up to a year. So that's the biggest difference between it. Now on the end corner, it says 17% of youths, 6 to 17, experiences mental health. Now that might not seem like a big number, but that's a huge number. All right, next slide for me. Okay, so we're looking from a world standpoint. We have 792 million people that have been diagnosed with mental health disorder. 90 suicides an hour, 2,200 deaths by suicide daily. So let's just break it down. We have 50 states, right? If we have 90 deaths an hour, let's just say Georgia. That's close to, and we have 24 hours in a day. That's 25 lives that were lost in just one day, in just one state, in 24 hours. That's a huge amount. Suicide ranks the second leading cause of death amongst the age of 10 to 34. Treated or receiving little treatment or responding to treatment, people often quit their jobs. They drop out of school. And school involves high school, middle school, and college, and even grad school as well. And for those who are just, they're done, it ends in death. Next slide for me. Now in Georgia, 10.4% of children ages 3 to 17 have reported depression or anxiety in 2020. Now what happened in 2020? We were in a pandemic, right? That's when the spike occurred. It doubled in adolescents. Now, I know 3 years old sounds like it's really young, but you'll be surprised how many parents come in. My youngest child that I treat is 4 years old. Have parents coming in. My daughter, she's anxious. Well, Mom, how do you know? Well, this X, Y, and Z is happening. Or he's just constantly crying. He just won't stop. I brought him to the pediatrician. We've gone to every single specialist. He just won't stop crying. He's always sad. He's never happy. So unfortunately, even at the age of 3, it's still possible. 2023, 11.5% of youths experience severe major depression. 6.34% of the youths in the U.S. reported substance use in the past year. That percentage might seem small, but it's still a big number. You have 2.85% that's using alcohol, 4.85% that's using drugs. Right now, even in elementary, there are children using marijuana. Before marijuana was, you don't really hear about it, like it's adults doing it. But now they're using it through vapes. Middle school, they have dealers that show up and provide it to them through vapes. High school, they're taking their Adderall and they're mixing it in with the weed because they want to get high. Mom didn't know they took an extra pill that day. Dad didn't know they took an extra pill that day. This is what's happening currently in our generation, currently even in Georgia. The death by drugs are even higher because now they're lacing with fentanyl. Just a little taste of fentanyl could take you completely out. Next slide. Now, pre-pandemic, we see 68% of millennials and 81% of the Gen Z left their job for mental health reasons. and Gen Z are twice likely to battle with depression. I remember growing up, you can't even mention depression. My mom was going, what you depressed about? You don't pay no bills? What you stressed about? You living here for free. But now in our current generation, that's no longer the case. They're leaving jobs. They're not even lasting a whole month. Some not even a day because of mental health. And this is pre-pandemic percentages. The pandemic was 2020. We're in 2024. The numbers are even higher. We have more, the demand for mental health is higher than we have providers to supply because it has grown astronomically. So I want you guys, as we go into to the panel section, I want you guys to think about these numbers because this is real. 1 in 5, that can be somebody at your job. 1 in 20, somebody at your school, whether it's college, high school, or middle school. 1 in 20. So there's one person in a classroom of 20 that's dealing with depression, anxiety, or something that's contemplated suicide. This is where we're at as a community and as a people. So right now I'm going to invite my panelists up. Come on, ladies. Welcome to the stage. Welcome, ladies. Thank you guys for being here. So we're going to start off with from my furthest all the way around, and each person's going to introduce themselves so you guys will know who you're talking to.
My name is Kayla Swanwood, and I am a mental health counselor.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jennifer Tolbert. I have 25 years experience in education, specifically special education, dealing with students with mental health diagnoses and comorbid special education eligibilities.
Good afternoon. My name is Renelle Thermidor. I am an educator, have been for the last 18 years, specifically in the area of special ed.
Good afternoon. My name is Natalie Fulton. I am a mental health counselor as well.
And again, my name is Molisha Olayani. Gosh, can't even get my last name out correctly. I am a family nurse practitioner with a specialty of psychiatry. And we do have our psychiatrist that we're going to be streaming in. So ladies, let me know whenever you got him. You can get him on the screen. Mr. Jean, can you hear us clearly?
Yes, I'm hearing you, but very low.
Are you able to hear us clearly?
Not clearly, but I'm hearing.
Okay. If you can hear me, go ahead and introduce yourself for us.
Okay, my name is Jean Wilfried Aldino. I have an experience of 22 years in the psychiatric field, doing emergency psychiatry, forensic psychiatry, meaning working in jail, with people who are in trouble with the law. And generally, I'm constantly working in the emergency room in what we call the crisis center. So where we receive all kind of patients, adults, adolescents, and children. And I'm very happy to be in the panel. That way I can apport my contribution to this seminar.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so it's clear to say that there's a big connection between mental health and the school system. Would you guys agree? Yeah? So Kayla, I'm gonna start off with you. What has been your experience within the last 5 months, because we're about to end May, dealing with the adolescent population and mental health?
Typically, I see a spike in depression and anxiety around the end of the school year. Students are worried about their parents seeing their grades, or they're worried about the loss of friendships, the transition between different grades. So mental health definitely takes a decline towards the end of the school year. Really, honestly, from January on down to May.
Jennifer, Renelle?
I agree with that. Kind of to piggyback off what you're saying, you're especially looking at those who are graduating from high school, going into college, comparing themselves with their peers. Are we getting into top-notch colleges? Will I make my parents proud? What will I do with my life? I should have listened to my parents more, or what am I going to do? Or, things like that. You see a huge decline from about December, especially during that Christmas time when they know, okay, the rubber is about to meet the road now. And you see a lot of anxiety, them reaching out to self-soothe instead of going to therapy appointments and things like that.
From a different perspective, when you're looking at it for elementary and middle testing, it brings out a lot of anxiety with kids. Middle school is a lot harder just because when you're talking about 8th graders, they're transitioning from middle school to high school. And with 5th graders transitioning from elementary to middle, because they're now the little fish in the big pond. And they're having to deal with that and the expectations, and because again, now more than ever, they're putting more emphasis on certain things when it comes to school. So navigating that for a lot of them is difficult.
Natalie, have you noticed an increase in crises around this time for you guys as well, especially when it's coming towards the end of the school year?
Well, working for the crisis line, it has been a steady increase over time of adolescents and children contacting us via chat, via text, or phone. So right now, it's hard to say because they're always calling, because there's always something that's going on from across the country to here in the States.
And I agree with all you guys. Even for me, as a practicing provider, between January and March, I notice a lot of my clients, especially the younger ones, the middle schoolers, the anxiety increases. Oh, we're going to milestones. I got testing coming up. I have to please mom. I have to please dad. So I've definitely noticed that a lot. A survey was conducted, I want to say it was 2020, and they were trying to determine what were the leading cause of an increase in mental health in the school system. And the number one cause was social media. Self-isolation is number 2, and then of course external factors. So external factors could be testing, as we talked about, climate changes, changes within the home, or the political changes. What are your guys' thoughts about that?
I do believe that just the changes in the home environment heavily influences children of all ages. I find that when parents are dealing with life stressors, children feel it. Just like when the educators, who a lot are parents, are dealing with life stressors, the children in the classroom feel it. And it's not just children that deal with the social media, it's adults as well. It is not just children. Even as an adult, you start scrolling, you know, and then you kind of get locked into it. Oh, now the dishes aren't done, and this isn't done, and I didn't do that. And then you get upset, and then the child will feel, because you're expecting them, which is like the children. Social media, they're seeing friends that are posting just snippets of something that may be 60 seconds, but their lives look totally different, and then they are comparing their lives to 60 seconds of something that may not even be real, may not even be true. You see individuals that are living in supposedly lavish homes when they actually went to Home Depot and staged it, because their lives really aren't like that. And so we have our children looking at social media thinking, this is what my life should look like, but in reality, in my home, this is what it looks like. And even again, as adults, they may feel that I have not arrived yet because you're looking at a friend or an associate or a peer or someone at work. And it does, that social media does have a huge impact. There's a lot of things that are in place. For example, I mean, if you have an iPhone, you know, you can go in and change the settings or things like that, so your children won't have as much access. But we are competing against a society where we're just constantly pushing for things that are not probably things that we teach, or moral values that are in our home. So, and it's constant, and even in the classroom, we're constantly having to compete and keep up with social media. It's just fast, it's fast paced. And so we're constantly having to compete with social media to keep the attention of the children. So that's a huge barrier in itself.
I definitely agree, but I'm going to provide a different-ish perspective. I really think the leading factor is projection. I think social media makes it easy to access, but the projection of what I feel about me and being seen as someone being better than that is what actually contributes to it. It's about how you use social media. As a provider, I use it to show them different things. I had a client literally send me a clip from TikTok yesterday, kind of denouncing being obsessed with a character that she's into. And she said, this made me feel bad about myself. And I said, well, does she understand the why? And so we look at things and we don't think about how those things or those people don't know the why. And in no matter what environment it is, whether you're at home and you're stressed and you're putting those projections of your stress onto your children or vice versa, you're not understanding the why. And I think if we ask more of the why behind a lot of things, we could kind of resolve a lot of our issues and leading factors.
I definitely agree with both of you all. When you talk about social media and a reality, I think distinguishing that it's hard for this generation. What's reality and what is TV? TV is always projecting that this is reality TV. No, they miss the edit part of their life. And the edit part is what we actually are living. And I think being able to educate the children and talk with kids, not just children, but all of us, we get caught up in it by scrolling, and we get just derailed off of what we should be doing at that moment. Because it's not always about social media, to be honest. It's about, are we at work? Are you at school? Are you cleaning up? What are you doing in that moment? But right now, that's the go-to, that's the out. And speaking about social media and young children, we get a lot of crisis calls with being bullied. I'm bullied because I'm not looking like this person on social media. So now I'm lonely. I don't have no one to talk to. I can't talk to my parents, as you saw in the skit. That is really actually what's going on, because they don't understand. And then they call us at the crisis line, hey, this is what I'm about to do. But have you talked to your parents? No. So can I talk to your parents? No. Then we have to send emergency services out to them because we don't know what's going on in the home.
What you were saying too about, the perspective, there's a lot of great things on social media. A lot of great things that have improved the lives of many, many people. But it's about what you choose to focus on. And again, that starts with the home, like me and my structure and what I teach my daughter. This is what we focus on. So it's like you have, you know, it was the tale of the two wolves. It's the good and the bad. What side do we choose? What am I teaching? What are our values? Will they veer off and kind of see other things? But if you're planting that seed in your children, so it will grow as they get older and it waters and the sun shines on it, and you're gonna see something beautiful. But it depends on what you choose to focus on, and you pull out all of the great things. There's a lot of positive in social media, but a lot of times that little bit of negative, you know, is that little piece of yeast that can spoil the whole thing.
I absolutely agree. And as you were talking, I thought of like, TV's been around for a while. Social media is and has become a version of entertainment like TV. But I'm still in there a little bit, when we were growing up, they weren't actual real people. You knew them as actors. So when they sewed in that little piece of negativity, or when they had that, you know, the sitcom thing where they take a piece of drama and make it like a real issue, when we saw that, we still were able to separate from it a little bit because it was TV. You could always rationalize and say, oh, it's just TV. With social media, you can't, because that's a person. And regardless of what they're showing you, you're still seeing that's a human just like me. And that's what I think also contributes to that impact, is we're people and it's real.
And social media is here. It ain't going nowhere. It's here. It's here. So how do we adjust? How do we teach them to adjust? And that is choices that we have. And it's not just choices with social media, but in life in general. When you teach them to choose one thing or the other, the good or the bad, the benefits or not, you can take that same thought process and apply it to other areas. So definitely starting at home, that's where it is. Church is home. Home is church. So yeah.
And another piece of that is, I realize, as you know, being in schools with kids all day long, one of the things that I've noticed is that kids do not have an ability to critical think. And without that critical thinking, there are certain choices that are always going to come to them or come in front of them, and they can't decipher the difference between right and wrong. They can't decipher whether, well, if I do this, what's going to be the consequence of it. And so they make choices just because they make the assumption, oh, my friend did it and they got away with it, so automatically I'm gonna be able to get away with it. And that's not always the case. So we can't always rely on the schools to do that piece. It needs to come, as Jennifer said and as Kayla said before, it needs to come from home. We need to take the time to speak to our children, have a conversation with them. Don't just simply ask them, how was your day? Dig into it. Okay, if they say, how was your day? Okay, it was great. Okay, what was great about it? Go into the details, go into the little pieces. Because if you pay attention to their body language, if you pay attention to the things that they say, or the way their eyes move, or the way their body moves, you will be able to tell the parts that were easy and the parts that were hard. And if they continuously talk about one specific friend or one specific adult, there's something behind that, and you kind of have to pay attention to that. Because if they're going to talk about this one friend, my policy in my house has always been, if you're going to hang out with this person, I need to know who this person's parents is. If this person wants to go to the mall with you, I need to meet with the parents first before you do that. We don't just willy-nilly just go wherever. So a big piece of this is knowing when and how to pay attention, because kids give you a lot of clues and they give you a lot of silent signals. You just have to pay attention to those signals.
And kids model what they see. So we can quickly say, as the parents, as the adults, we're to model, we're to plant seeds. But we also have to back up a bit. We can't negate the parent. Have we, and I know the buzzword is, have we healed? Have we learned? Have we kind of dealt with some things that we probably did have or didn't have and things like that, so we can model and show the example for the child. So again, you think of you as an individual, as a parent, what are my beliefs, right or wrong? What is it that I need to relearn or unlearn so I can help this child be better or moving forward in life. So we tend to put a lot on the child, the child, the child. But where is it coming from? What are we teaching them? What are some things that I need to unlearn for myself as an adult, especially in a school system where I'm standing before children and adults and other parents and things like that too.
I absolutely agree, and I think I actually am thinking a lot about my mom because we kind of had this conversation, and you don't know what you don't know, and it's hard to know about the cues, like you were saying, Renee. She don't know them, and so how do you notice my cues and signals if you don't know your own, or if no one taught you how to look as a parent? It's not something learned. It's something learned, not something taught. It's not something you get in the education system. It's not something commonly talked about. Mental health isn't a thing, you know, and a lot of people refuse to acknowledge it. And if you had mental health issues, you were just crazy. And so I think the conversation has to change about teaching me your signals as a parent and as a child. Children need to learn their parents' signals, and parents have to learn their children. Now, I know my mom's signals, and my mom knows mine. She can hear when something's wrong with me in my voice, just by how I sound, and will say, what's going on, okay? Now, sometimes I lie, and I say nothing, but at least I know that she heard it. When I'm ready, I'll say, no, okay, it was something, but it was this, and vice versa, and it's really transformed our dynamic because those cues are known.
I do want to piggyback off of everything that you guys have said, but I want to bring back in Dr. Jean to get his viewpoint, especially since he is in a different state. He's actually in New Jersey. And what I have noticed, just speaking to other providers, although mental health is deemed as almost a sin, technically it's not. When you look from it from a state-to-state perspective, things present a little bit more differently. Dr. Jean, can you hear us?
Yes?
Awesome. So
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We've been talking a
Yes.
lot about just social media and especially in the school system. And you know, for a practicing provider, what have you noticed and seen when it comes to social media and how much it has influenced mental health?
Okay, there is no doubt the social media has a negative influence in the adolescent. But the big issue in the adolescent is parental. Lately, we have observed a kind of negligence in part of the parents to participate in their children's life. They believe that providing everything to the children is the priority. This is not the priority. The priority is participating in your children's life, knowing what's going on with them, what do they do, what circle they are in, what kind of lecture they do, what kind of movie they watch. And when they are home, there should be the attractive attention to be with them, to share with them, to know what's going on in their life. We are having a crisis of children educating children. A lot of young people having children, and they are not really equipped with the educational basis to educate those children. And that's created a big problem in the school system, making like on a daily basis in the emergency room, we receive at least 5 to 6 children in one district only. And when they come, what do you observe? The family come to the psychiatric emergency system looking for a fix. Sometimes they don't even know what is going on in the life of the children. Like the adolescent between age 14 to 18, some of them are trapped in the popular system of education when they come because they have the right to privacy. We talk to them in private, and sometimes they tell you, don't tell my parents, you cannot. And when they arrive, some of them say they are depressed. But do the parents know where the depression come from? Most of the time, it's because of not only influence and it was happening in society. When they come, they tell them I'm not binary, they tell them I'm fluid. So when they come with this terminology, which is new even for we professionals, so that's create a big problem, not only in the family, but in the professional. We will need to deal with some issue that haven't been addressed in the school or in the family. Then we have to face this problem and try to deal with it. From the point of view of the adolescent, from the point of view of the parents, and from the point of view of the school system. Because the school system, when they send the children to the emergency room crisis unit, they're expecting you to give them a clearance to say they are good, they are safe, which is not appropriate. We are not there to tell the school system who's supposed to be in school or not. We are there to assess their needs. If they are suicidal, we admit them. If they need outpatient treatment, we refer them. If they need counseling, we refer them. But we are not the one who say you have to be in school. As long as they are not admitted in the hospital, they are free to go to school. And we face this problem that the school wants us to say, is the student is not a danger to self and to the school. That's not the attribution of the psychiatrist. The attribution of the psychiatrist is to understand the adolescent, to know what's going on in their life, and to refer them to the appropriate treatment. But not to say you are good to go to school. The school system, they have counseling, they have psychologists, they have social workers. They are the one who should, after we discharge the adolescent, they are the one who should give a kind of shield to these adolescents to help them face the problem. If they are in need for medication, we are going to prescribe medication. If there is no need for medication, let's say, if it's a case of what we call a conduct disorder for conduct, there is no pills, there is nothing, it's counseling. So it's a problem because what they see on TikTok, they repeat it. The media is a problem because we have seen a lot of shooting in the school system, and they have learned it from the media. And we are observing lately a lot of slashing in the school system. Those things they are learning in the media. Meaning we are living in a society where the mentality is sick. The mentality, the per se, is sick. So we have a big issue among us and a big issue to try to face. We, professionals in the mental health, teachers, social workers, counselors, it's a big issue. So I don't know if he has responded to the panel, but this my contribution to this, what is happening currently in the school system, in the community, and with our adolescents.
Thank you so much. Did everybody, and he said a lot, so did everybody catch that, all that he said? One of the biggest takeaways, I want you guys to pay attention that he said, and I'm glad he brought that up. When a child comes into the hospital, a lot of times parents are like, are they okay to go back to school? And sometimes that's hard to determine, because they might be in a crisis in that moment, but that doesn't, and even though we de-escalate the crisis, it does not mean that they're okay or not okay. But the idea of, well, I gotta get my son back to school, I gotta get my child back to school, you know, he has to stand the honor roll, he has to, like, school becomes more of the priority versus their actual mental health. Does that make sense?
It does, but I actually think a part of it too is I have to get back to work. And so you gotta go to school, because I got stuff to do, you know, and I think there's a lot of difficulty in knowing how to prioritize your child's needs and not impact yourself, but the work environment is not gonna let you miss work for X amount of days because your child is mentally unwell. And so parents have to kind of figure out how to balance that. So I think the question for them is, what am I gonna do? You know, I have this child who has this issue, but I gotta get back to work. What do I do? And I think it's more of them kind of trying to assess what's possible, but I think it's really to benefit them.
Very true. I can't tell you guys how many times I've had an appointment with a child who's telling me, I don't want to be here anymore. This is what I plan to do. And the parent literally says, I don't have time for this today. I don't have time. Like, are you serious right now? And even when they come back for the follow-up, the parent is even more upset, because sometimes they say, well, I wasted time because they didn't admit them. And whenever you go into the ER, it doesn't always guarantee that on-call MP, PA, psychiatrist is going to admit them for 3, 4, 5, or 7 days. They do an initial assessment, and depending on how critical they are, that will be the determining factor on whether they go to the actual psychiatric hospital. And that's something we gotta keep in mind. And I get it, we all got full-time jobs, believe me, I understand. But our job should never outweigh the mental health of our child or ourselves. Because even as adults, we do that as well. Well, I'm depressed, I really don't wanna be here, but I can't go to the hospital. I gotta feed my children. And if I don't work, I don't get no money, they don't have no food. But you're not well. You're not well. So even if you can feed them, you're still pouring out poison into them, because you can't pour out love from a depressed place. You can't. Some people think they can, but even the functioning ones, the sadness, the loneliness, the things that comes with depression, or even anxiety, it will ooze out of you. When you think about from a medical standpoint, there's a thing called stress ulcers. People don't really think about that. It's called stress ulcers for a reason. It's caused by stress. So if you can develop an ulcer from stress, how much more can you pour into what you're feeling that's not positive into your child or your husband or your friend?
And I think you made a really good point, as well as the doctor, when he was saying, where does depression come from? How did we get from sad to depressed? I think a lot of us, we don't know how to identify our feelings and our emotions, and we quick to go to the highest level of the emotion chart. I'm depressed. But if you can say, hey, I am sad, and this is what making me sad, you teach them how to communicate, not just your kids, but us as well as adults. And I'm upset. These are some good questions you have to ask yourself and identify what emotion goes with what situation or what's going on at that moment. And we don't always provide that to our children, and they don't know how to say it. You know, I had one friend, she said her mom was sticky note different emotions on the mirror. So when you feel in some type of way, let me know. And that gives them that ability to enlarge their vocabulary and identify with that emotion at that time. Because it's not always depression. I'm sad, I'm upset. And a lot of anger comes from sadness. Many people don't know that I'm hurt and I'm in pain. So I'm gonna display it in an aggressive manner. So I think knowing what term or what emotion goes with that at that moment is very important.
Very, very, very important. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel nervous. Those are natural responses. That is, we all have what's called serotonin in our bodies. I call it the happy pill. And it detects our emotions, our mood. Things are gonna make us upset. Things are gonna make us sad. If somebody passed that you love dearly, a mother, a brother, a sister, a friend, a dog, it's going to make you sad, right? A test is coming up. You're really nervous about whether you're gonna do well. It's normal. It's what you do with those emotions that determines how far it goes.
That's what I say all the time. My friends are in the room and I say it all the time. I'm sure they could quote it. Your feelings are always gonna be valid. It's what you do about them that I hold you accountable for.
Yeah.
I think communication is huge, like you were just saying. We have to teach others, even with ourselves, how to properly communicate. And I think because we have been so accustomed to reacting negatively when I feel a certain way, I don't know what's going on with these feelings, what to do, so I'm just gonna lash out because that's maybe what I've seen, that's what I know. But we have to remember all behavior is a form of communication, whether good or bad. But we have to learn how to communicate, to say, and use those I statements. I feel sad. And for that person to take time and ask, what does that feel like? Why do you feel that way? We may think, I think you mentioned earlier with, your parents would say, you have everything going on. What do you have to be depressed about? Well, depression to them back then looked different to what depression looked like for me and what it looks like for our children now. The stressors are totally different. So it doesn't matter if it's just a roof over your head and you have food and you have a car and you have clothes. That's not their stressors. Those are not their stressors, so we have to learn. Even the little ones, I'm looking at the baby out here now, even the little ones, there's a stress that they have that you would think, you're 2, you're 3, or 1. What do you have to be stressed about? But it's there. You would think, how would they know what stress is? But it's there. It's there. Stress now, I just but it's there, and we have to acknowledge it, and we have to learn how to properly communicate our wants and needs.
I just want to validate how hard that is. Like, it's so hard. I work with people all day. Had a session before I came here. I struggle to do it. I was sitting in the car with my sister yesterday, and something she said made me go dead silent. And I like to talk. I don't do that. And she just gave me time. She didn't say anything. She literally just sat there with me. And I had to realize that I was internalizing what she said, but I didn't think about how she could feel about what I was saying either. And I felt like there could have been a rise of conflict in it. But I didn't realize that I had gotten dead silent. I didn't realize that I wasn't thinking about how she could have felt about that situation. In that moment, I just knew how I felt. And I knew what I was feeling, but not how to say it to her. And so I've been practicing intentionally, taking that time to know what I'm feeling and then try and communicate it. And so I did. I ran a little errand. I went inside the bank. I said, I'm gonna talk to her when I get out the bank. Got back in the car and I said, I internalized what you said. She was like, well, I said it the wrong way, so I imagine you felt the way. And that kind of communication is way better because I vocalized what I was going through and let her know it's not about you. And she said, well, I could see how it could have been even if it wasn't. And it was just so powerful, so.
I don't know how to express. I know I'm feeling something, but I don't know how to express it, how to say it. I'm feeling like, and you can go back to, remember the time when I'm feeling like that, you know, but I can't pinpoint what this emotion is, but I don't know how to communicate what it is, but it doesn't feel good. You know, we just have to be honest with ourselves, you know thyself. And when we start getting to that point, then we can teach that to our children, to even communicate that. We're talking about the education system, to teach them that. And I even know in teaching that to children, you will be surprised, they're teaching that to their teachers too, who probably don't know how to do it as well.
And sometimes they teach it to their peers too. One of the things that he said that I realized, I don't know if the panel realized that we kind of skipped over this part, but for me, it was profound and it was important. Children having children. There's been a generation that has literally where there are certain things that are not taught. They're just demonstrated and people just pass over them. And being in the school system, being inside a school building every single day, what I see, what happens every single day is children make excuses for what they don't want to do, and parents back up those excuses. Accountability is not a thing anymore. And as soon as children say, well, I don't want to do this because it affects my mental health, which is fine, but we also have to understand where there's a greater consequence to certain things and where they're affected even more is when they're no longer in elementary and middle school and they're in high school. And in high school, they have to earn those credits in order to graduate. Or they want to get into this college, but they haven't done the work to get there and they want this. Because at that point, you cannot make excuses for them anymore. You cannot just say pass them. You cannot find the tools or the avenue to get them what they want just because. Because what you're going to be doing is dealing with that anxiety at a greater rate. What you're going to be dealing with is that depression at a greater rate because we lack the ability or we're not doing our due diligence to teach our children responsibility and accountability. And that leads to other things that affect mental health. So when we're not doing those things and we're not doing our part as far as that, it makes it harder. Jennifer have this going joke with me every day where she checks in to make sure I still have a job. And we find it funny just because of the things that we have to deal with every single day when it comes to dealing with parents, when it comes to dealing with children. And the thing that makes it even harder is that people don't realize that teachers are leaving education at a fast pace and at a fast rate because of what they're being asked to do every single day with children. Now, that does not mean that every educator is dealing with kids in the same way or they have that same care or that same due diligence. They don't. But the ones that do care and the ones that want to see children succeed and excel, they're the quickest ones to leave the field because of the fact that they're getting burned out. And a lot of times these people forget about their own mental health and their well-being because they want to make sure the kids in their class are doing well and they're being taken care of and they're not the ones suffering. Because I can't tell you how many suicide protocols we deal with on a regular basis, on a daily basis. It's a lot. But those suicide protocols or those situations affect the teachers just as much because again, at the crux of this is children having children. And those children that are having children not knowing what it means to communicate effectively, not knowing what it means to be a parent, not ready to be a parent, and not knowing what it is to not be your child's friend, but to be their parent.
I want to add to, just in case this part goes over their head, you can be a child and still be grown. You can be emotionally a child and still have children. You don't have to be in your 30s to not be a child anymore. And that part is something that I think goes over a lot of people's heads. So when you say children have children, you think teen. No. Also, people who have not done their own work to be mature, emotionally and present. And it really does go a long way. The adverse can happen. you are so accustomed to being extremely responsible that you breed a perfectionist. I'm one. I'm a recovering perfectionist though. You're not thinking about how that increase of expectation breeds me or people like me. All of it matters.
And I think as parents, when you have not done the work, whatever the age is, we tend to overcompensate. We tend to overcompensate. I'm in the amen corner here because of the things that you didn't have or felt that you needed, and you saw your parents struggling or X, Y, Z, but my child is not gonna have to do that. And then you overcompensate. And then when they get older, they don't know how to. Back to what Renelle was saying about the accountability piece. And so it's a systemic, you know, when I was listening to you speak earlier, it's a systemic thing that we have to really focus on from the top all the way down. Parents having jobs to say, I don't have time for this right now because I gotta work to put food on the table, and it's a lot of stressors because you have to do those things to get food on the table and make sure the kids are not bullied at school because you couldn't afford to get a certain pair of shoes or whatever it is, and then you're overcompensating a lot for the things that you didn't have, and you want your children to have it, but you're missing that time to teach in the moment. It's okay for kids to have good things. You want your kids, parents want their kids to have good things. So they don't have to deal with stuff like that because some things we just can't control, but we can control the things within our homes. But just be mindful that we should not overcompensate and put the value of things before the value of time with our children.
So good. I want to take a quick pause and have the ladies in the media team go ahead and put the code up for us, because you guys can ask questions at any time. You raise your hand. This is an open, I know we're doing a lot of talking and you guys are receiving a whole lot of information, but don't be afraid to ask questions. And even online, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, you guys are more than welcome to ask questions, post your questions, we'll review it, and then we'll ask it for the panel, okay? And then we have the Q code right there to the side.
I would like to share something, and listening to what this young lady had said about generations and our parents don't know, but I would like to say from the beginning of time, mental health issues been here. From Adam and Eve, when Eve bit the apple and they went running and hiding, they were scared. I'm pretty sure they had anxiety, but they probably don't know the term for it. You know, it goes back to what is the words to use. And all throughout the Bible, again, there's nothing new under the sun, nothing. So whenever we are feeling some type of way, I have learned to go back to what I know, what was instilled in me, what has been consistent from day one until now, to go back there and seek some answers. And I know many people say, well, church and mental health, everyone say go pray, go pray, go pray. I get it. But it goes back to knowing that we have been created with that spot to go back to our Creator. We cannot be apart from Him and expect to live a wonderful, healthy life. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. Even though we're gonna experience some challenges, yes we are, but seeking Him, it gives us a little ease to deal with those challenges. That's what I wanted to share.
I will add this though, because it just came to me. Because a lot of times we pray for generational curses to be broken. But there's a part of this where we talk about trauma, we talk about mental health, because we think, oh, I'm gonna pray and it's just gonna automatically go away. You gotta put the work in. You gotta put the work in. You can't just say, well, I don't want this generational curse to be broken, but you know, because your mom used to yell, now you yell, and all of a sudden it's gonna go away. You have to actually see yourself internally and be like, okay, wait, this is a problem, and I need to go back and I need to figure out how to fix it. So it's not repeating the same behavior that I saw, but breaking that generational curse does not only involve prayer, it involves work. And if we're not willing to do the work, it's like we're praying in vain.
When you are putting in the work, because I get it, faith without works is dead. But when I am putting in the work, I found that it helps not to be ashamed to talk to your child and say, okay, I didn't do this correctly, what I should have done. So I want you to know that I'm not perfect. Mommy's still working on it now, so she'll know growing up, you're not perfect either. You know, you gotta make mistakes. It's okay to talk and have the conversation. I used to hear growing up, you know, it was taboo for an adult to apologize to a child. And don't apologize to your child, you know, and things like that. But they're gonna become adults like we are, so what are we teaching them? And so when there's things that happen with me and my daughter sees it, after I get over my moment, because I'm human, I'm human, I talk to her and say, this is how I was feeling. This is why. Not to put too much on her as a child, because she's a little something. But I need her to understand that it's okay to talk about it. Your feelings are valid, even as an adult. But you gotta talk through it and not just shun, you know, yourself back from it, because that's the way that you teach them also. They see one thing, and sometimes that's all they see. But we have to teach them something different. If we want it to look different, we have to teach and show them something different. So I talk to her and say, I was upset because of this, or I should not have reacted this way. I should have done this, so I can give her an option.
But you're teaching accountability, and I don't think that's always recognized. When you retreat in yourself, or when you just stay closed off as a parent because you don't want to have to explain to your child, you're showing them that you don't know what accountability is. Accountability is universal, and it should be whether or not you do it to your child or your child does it to you. So if you want your child to be accountable, and if accountability is something missing from the education system or different areas of life, how are you teaching them accountability in your own emotion?
And we're talking about mental health. This is all a part of it. That's what this whole forum is about. How can we just break that barrier so we can produce children with more critical thinking skills, so the executive functioning can be greater than before. So this is all a part of that mental health piece for our children.
That's true, because so many times people focus on depression, anxiety, but that's the end result. The beginning result was the trauma, the situation that actually happened. And I'm just sitting here thinking, you know, just 10, 15 years ago, you know, the numbers were down. We weren't having as many people seeking help or needing help, but we are now. Was it that much of a difference back then? Because, you know, the baby bloomers, they don't talk about depression. You're not depressed, you're gonna fight through it. We're gonna make this work, right? But the millennials, Gen Zs, oh, you hurt my feeling because you looked at me the wrong way. It's completely.
And we're sensitive.
Very sensitive.
Now we're sensitive because we're talking about it.
So is it because of social media, because of technology, you know, now that we're more aware, we're more open, and this was always there, and we were ignoring it, and the baby bloomers, you know, they actually were feeling depressed, but they had to be strong, especially in the African American culture. We are taught we have to be strong. We have to fight through it. So is it technology that made that difference?
No. You know, I love to shake the table. It's not. It's not technology that made the difference, and things that I can't stand hearing. Oh, I went through the same things as you did. But that was your experience, not mine. And so even though your theme may be the same, how you responded is not how I respond. And it's invalidating to tell me, I've been here already. Congratulations. But what about me in this moment? What about my experience today? It's not the same. Social media just puts it in your face. It doesn't change. Exactly. It does not change the fact that we individually have our own storms. You just can see it on your Facebook now, versus actually having to go out your way to go to your neighbor's house and ask, like, you ain't came and got nothing from my house in a couple weeks. That's the difference. people have been experiencing traumas and issues long before now. There have been epidemics and different things that have impacted this world long before now. Now we're just talking about it, and the generation that I'm in and the generation after me don't have a problem knocking down the doors and saying, you have to listen to it. And I think that's the difference. The conversation is changing, not the topic.
I actually think social media has brought a lot of people together. It really has. And again, it goes back to what do we focus on? What are we looking for? It's about your perspective. What do you see? What are you choosing to see? What are you seeing through your lens? Which kind of leads to your mindset. Is it more negative? Because that's what you're instilling to your children, and then we wonder about their mental health, or we're looking at it on the positive side. Now, yes, I'm the parent that will shut my daughter's phone down. I will. But I also want to show her the positive. There's so many great things, and I'll just use TikTok for an example, and IG or the gram or whatever they call it. There's so many positive things. So many people that are coming together that you never would have even dreamed of meeting all throughout the world because you have something in common, and there's someone that heard you or said, oh yeah, not to invalidate that this is how I'm feeling, but I'm not alone. So I've seen so many positive things. Now, are there a lot of negative? Yes. But again, just like with the news, you don't see all the positive things, and there's a lot of good that's come out of it.
I do want to say, just to piggyback, I'm sorry, now you had something? Okay. Just to piggyback off what both of y'all said, back then, what happens in the home stays in the home. You don't go out here telling our business. But now social media, we at a point of no return, everything is out there. And it does give us the option, it goes back to that fruit of the spirit, self-discipline. You have choices. We all have choices. And are you a half cup full or a half cup empty person? And me, I look at everything, look, my cup might be running over. But it's more half full opposed to half empty. How you view it, how you perceive it, is totally up to you. That's the beauty of having that free will.
Do we have any questions from the audience thus far?
All right. First of all, I want to thank all of you for the awesome discussion we're having this morning. I wasn't planning to be here actually, but I'm glad I'm here. Right. My question goes back to the children, especially when I have four children, and I remember those days growing up, and you tell your dad that you are sick, and you say, "Look, you have to go to the church, you will get healed." So there's nothing you can say that actually they won't have any reason for you. Just move on with it. But nowadays we're seeing so many things that are coming up with children, especially, I wasn't brought up here. Well, my question basically goes towards at what point? So let's say, for example, you have, like I said, I have four, and you see each of these children behaving differently. And sometimes you feel that maybe is this something that either you are doing or happening at home. And you see some of the children actually doing well, and some of them are having these symptoms of this thing you're talking about here. So at what point will you be able to say, okay, this time is kind of either a mental situation or anxiety or depression? And when you recognize that, at what point do you say, okay, you need to see a professional or somebody that can help you address this? So at what point do you actually see that can you determine that this child or this individual needs some help?
I would say first and foremost, start with the conversation. From the time you notice your son or your daughter has a change in their disposition, pull them aside, especially for parents who have more than one child, because you have to treat each child individually because they have their own individual personalities. So to say your son, Johnny, for a week, he's just been not his happy-go-lucky self. Take him out to the park or to the mall. Spend that one-on-one time with him or her and ask that question, hey, is everything okay? One of the videos that we started with, you saw they were saying, I'm sending you signals every day. I'm sending you signals every day, right? So from the time you see a shift, and it's more than a week, it's 2 weeks, it's 3 weeks, you don't want it to get to a 3-week stage. When you see a week pass and you see a drastic change in your child, have a conversation with them, pull them aside. And again, I say conversation, because a lot of times as parents, we interrogate them versus actually having a conversation with them. Because even with a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, or a 10-year-old, they don't fully understand what they're feeling. They just know they're feeling something, and oftentimes don't have a way or know how to express that. So talking to them, with them, not at them. And that's the first way to start. And depending on what it is, say, hey, you know what? Let's seek some treatment. Let's see. Because seeking treatment doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna have medication. And a lot of people get scared whenever individuals say they have to see a psychiatrist. One of the ways that I practice, I'm a holistic provider. I don't always prescribe medication. And a lot of my parents, when they come in, they're like, really? You sure you use it? Yeah, I'm in this field. Medication is not the end all be all. It can be as simple as they just need someone to talk to. Kayla, can you see this client for me? They need to talk. They need to work through their feelings. Because what people don't realize is medication doesn't fix anything. It only lessens the symptoms. The way how I tell my clients, I said, it makes life livable. You know, the door is slammed less. The yelling goes down, but it doesn't fix the root cause. Talking about it, figuring out the why, fix the root cause, and that's where therapy comes in. When you come to us as a psychiatrist or MP or PA, what we're doing is, we're listening to you, all the subjective information, historical information, and we're formulating a diagnosis. Based on that diagnosis, and based on how severe it is, then we say, hey, sincerely, they only need this, or they only need that, or they need a combination of this or that. So start with the conversation.
And like Dr. Jeanette Rennell said, you have to have a conversation with your kids every day. And not just when they're having issues, but that's how you start that, open that door for them to come to you so y'all can talk. Because if you come to me, any kid, they say, wait a minute, you coming to me now? But what happened to before? So it's good to just have general conversation. I have a 2-year-old granddaughter, and we talk about school. I might not can't understand her, but we conversate. You know, we have that dialogue going on. I listen, and I may try to figure out what she said, and I repeat it back to her so she know that I'm listening and I'm trying. So not just when things are wrong, but have this conversation with your kids every day. It's a relationship. So remember that every day.
There's something that was said in the question that really stuck out to me. What am I doing? Is it something that I'm doing? And if you're gonna have the conversation with your children, don't come in defensive. That question, that piece, if they say yes, you have to be able to receive that. But by starting with, is it something I'm doing, and questioning your value and ability as a parent, that conversation not gonna go well. And so when I'm having conversation and when I'm therapizing, as I call it, I tell people, if you're not ready to receive the response, don't ask the question. The first thing you should do as a parent, in my opinion, is sit with the thought that there might actually be something going on. And after you sit with that thought, sit with the thought of having to do something about it. And what are your limitations as a parent? Because if you can't show up, they're not gonna show up. They won't show up to therapy, they won't take their meds, they won't put in that energy because your buy-in is not there. And perception is just as important as that. How you perceive the problem will impact them. They want you to be okay, and they want you to be proud of them. So if I tell my mom, my dad, that something's wrong with me, will they be disappointed? Did I fail them because I have mental health issues? They need the validation, exactly. And mental health isn't something that can or can't. You can't control it. It's just experienced.
And from a cultural perspective, historically, kids, when you were not born in the US, you were raised in a different culture, and you have kids here, you have a family here. Just from their ideas or their perception, they're not going to be quick to communicate the things that they feel that you're going to be disappointed in. They're not going to be quick to communicate the things that are hard for them just because they don't feel like they can open up. And the part where Caleb pointed out the fact you asked, what are you doing? Already you're feeling like you didn't do something with that child that you did with your other kids, and you're asking yourself, what should I have done differently? So instead of looking at it that way, look at it from the perspective of knowing that each child is different. No two children are the same. Because like my two children, they're 6 years apart, night and day. My daughter will talk my ears off. My son, I have to beg him to have a conversation with me. And because of that, we got to a place where he is not comfortable talking to any adult. He always thinks he can handle it on his own. Something happened at school, and I asked him, what happened? Because I don't always take everything. I want to know what their perspective is, because my policy is, you better tell me before the teacher tells me, otherwise we're in trouble. So he wouldn't talk to me about it, but he opened up to his sister and told her everything. So what I did as a parent was I sat both of them down and I said, I know that I come off as a dictator sometimes to you guys, but here's what it is. You're older. There are certain things, I can get mad about it, but I can't spank you and I can't hit you for it. It's not gonna do you any good. But we will have a conversation, we will talk. I will work on me getting upset when something doesn't go right. I will do better as a parent. Because I specifically remember, as Jennifer said, it's okay to apologize to your kids. Like the first time I apologized to my kids, they wondered if it was raining outside. But it's okay to apologize to your kids because you will see the difference. They will start to relax. They will start to talk to you. They will start to open up to you and tell you things that you normally would not get them to tell you. He's not gotten any better with communicating with me. But he does communicate with his sister regularly. And his thing is, I'll tell you because I know you're going to tell mom.
I do want to add, you cannot spank or beat or whoop mental illness. You cannot. You may make it worse, but you cannot whoop, spank, beat. We don't want you to do that anyway. But you can't do that. That's not a strategy. That is not an evidence, research-based intervention strategy that I have ever heard. And we may have grown up because the way we were acting, the parent didn't understand it, and we got whooped or spanked or whatever the case may be, but it did not solve the problem.
So I just want us to kind of park on this little tidbit. Because, you know, the idea of, at least growing up, you know, my mom always told me, I'm not your friend. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with that separation. Yes, they're the parent, but it's to the point where I can't communicate with you. I can't have that conversation. My child is supposed to fear me because I'm the parent. How do we break that? Because I think that's one of the things that's really killing that bond between a parent and a child. If I see my father or my mother as this person where I have to fear them, I'm not gonna tell them how I'm feeling. So how do we break that?
Conversation. It starts with a conversation. And when your kids fear you, because again, I grew up in what I would consider a totalitarian household. What my parents said goes, and that's how it went, and there's no questioning it, nothing. When my daughter was young, that's how I started to raise her, until I recognized what I was doing, and this lady right here had a big part in that. and I had to scale back and understand, because she didn't understand, like, why are you talking to me all the time? And I had to finally tell her, because I want you to feel comfortable to talk to me. And what people don't realize is that when you're talking about strict household, and there's nothing wrong with having a strict household, but having a child that communicates. You can do both. And I started to tell her, she learned that lesson in, I think, 2nd or 3rd grade. Tell my mom the truth. Always tell my mom the truth, no matter how bad it is. And if you can get that from them, to get them to always be honest with you, no matter how bad it is. And again, that's going to hinge on your reaction when they're honest with you. Because if you're not ready to listen, and if you're not ready to receive it, which is why my daughter always says this, I know exactly when you start listening, because you just don't talk, you don't move, you just sit there. And I don't always react. I have made it a rule and a thing where I know I'm going to hear her, but I'm not going to react, I'm going to listen. It's not about me, it's about her. I can still have my strict rules and procedures in my household. That has not changed, and she's 21. But she knows mom's gonna listen, but I have to be ready to accept the consequences that are coming at a later date. It doesn't mean it's going to be pretty for me or for her, but she knows that I'm going to listen. Because the biggest thing that I tell my children all the time, I can't get rid of the roots that my parents gave me, but I can better them. And she knows, I'm fine with you speaking your mind. I'm fine with you telling people how you feel, but it needs to be done in a respectful manner and in a respectful tone. Because she knows when she gets out of character and I turn my head, it's over. So you have to give them, because you can have a balance between the two, respect and boundaries.
And the question was, how do we break that? And like Renelle was just saying, it's how you communicate. It's effective communication. So I can say the same sentence to you 3 different ways and you're gonna receive it differently. But how are you communicating with your children? We can say communicate, communicate, communicate. But how are we communicating? Are we at a tone like we're talking up here? Or are we yelling? Are we screaming? Or are we just backing away, shying away? That's communication. You may think that I'm not saying anything, but that's still communication. And again, we're all talking about the mental health of our children and even us, but we have to be mindful of how we communicate with people.
I'm going to, again, shake the table. It's really, to me, a big part of it is understanding your role. The term parent is biological. That's a medical word. You're the parent. But what's your role, right? What kind of parent are you gonna be? What kind of friend do you wanna be? What kind of partner do you want to be? And that goes beyond the title. As a parent, you can be many things, but the way to break the barrier, in my opinion, is understanding that that can change. You can be authoritative, totalitarian at a certain time period, but do you know when it needs to change? And are you comfortable having that conversation to discern when it should change? I was a full college student, and I'm my mama's first baby, right? First one. We had to break up because she still wanted to be the same parent she had always been. But that's not what I needed from her anymore. Not in the same way. I've always been vocal, always been super independent. But how I needed her to show up for me was different. And I didn't struggle with that. I've always been the leader. I always break the cycle first. She struggled. And because she struggled, we struggled. Now, she understands how to flow with me. And it's more of a guide. It's more of a support. Not even a friend, but she's supportive of me because she understands I could need a mom. Mommy, I'm hurt. Mommy, this sucks. But I also may need someone to just vent to. and work through things through. And that's how we got stronger. You just have to understand that you have to change too.
I also think, I agree with that, but I also think as you're saying that, children are different too. So that goes back to knowing you have 4 children, these 2 or 3 are fine, and this one may be feeling a little differently, but there are some children where mom can flow with you at different stages, but you also have to remember there are some children who need that consistency. This is my mom or my dad or my auntie or whomever that person is, and I need that consistent person to be that person in my life. Some kids could be, I need you to, the ebb and flows, we can do this. But you have to not forget the one that I need you to always be dad. That's it. I have my friend over here, I have my counselor, I have whomever, but I need you to be dad because you're my rock, you're my strength, you're that structure. My daughter, we can set plans to do something, and I know she's the one, she gets it from me, she needs structure. She needs to know, and this is where anxiety come in with a lot of kids that I've worked with in the classroom. A lot of children with an autism diagnosis or an autism eligibility, they have to know. In order for them to feel safe, they have to know the structure, the routine. Every morning they have picture schedules, they have an agenda, and when that cycle is broken, that's when things just go awry because you have broken my structured cycle that I'm dependent on. Some kids need that. I can tell my daughter we're gonna do X, and I'll go all the way back to J, and she'll say, Mommy, you told me we were going to do this. You did not stand on your word. And so that's when I knew for her, she needed me to be this constant person and stick to what I told her, and so she could depend on me. And when I found that I did that, her anxiety level decreased because she, as a young child still growing and developing, she didn't have to figure it out on her own all the time, because I knew, I told my mom, I need you to be structured and consistent and stick to your word, regardless of what my hectic schedule was. It was gonna be even more hectic if I can get my household in order, because I'm not gonna be able to work if I know my daughter is feeling a certain way. But she communicated with me, she needed me to be this person, then her anxiety went down, and she was able to build more healthy relationships. But you have to know that child. I say a lot of times, I was a vessel that brought her here. I was a vessel, but I have to also know that she has things that God has ordained for her to do, but I have to provide that structure and seek that guidance so I can help provide the structure that's in place for her.
And I think that's what y'all says, flexibility, consistency, and communication, and also patience with yourself. Another fruit of the Spirit, because patience with yourself will also teach your children patience, and your peers patience, and your loved ones patience, and be okay to reach out, because you know what? Best believe if I'm going through it, they're going through it. That next door neighbor might be going through it. Again, it may look a little different, but we all go through it at some point. So find it to be comfortable within yourself to reach out and to talk with someone. Hey, I'm having a difficult moment, man. Look, this ain't right. What's going on? And if you have to, take a second for yourself. I remember I would go work, intern, go to school, come home and be mom. And I had told my kids, wait a minute, let me get in the door first. I'm here, I hear you, we all got needs, I got you. Let me go take a shower, let me wash off all day and then come back so I could be that mom, so I can be here and present for you. So sometimes we have to communicate that. Now they can say, oh, now I see, let me take a second. So they respond to stressful stuff in a different way. So yeah.
And also vulnerability from a parenting standpoint, because a lot of times we, I can speak for just growing up. When I was a teen, my mom wasn't that vulnerable. Like, I didn't know a whole lot about her. Respected her, loved her dearly, but she was never that open. But as I became an adult and I began to express to her, hey, I need this and I need that, she began to shift. And I think vulnerability is a big thing. It's okay to tell your child, hey, I have days when I'm not good. And that's okay. I think that also builds a bond, really and truly, when they can see yes, my mom is my hero, my dad is my hero, but they have hard days too. And they're getting through it. For Mother's Day, we had a skit that was done by the young lady who played Nina. And she did not a skit, excuse me, a spoken word. And the way how she spoke about her mom, in it, she expressed her mom had hard days, but her mom was still her hero because of how her mom handled herself. So that tells me that her mom was vulnerable before her. And not only for her, but also for her younger siblings. So vulnerability, I think, is a really, really big thing that sometimes as parents we miss.
If you've not done it before, it's gonna feel odd when you first start doing it. You're gonna get choked up and what am I doing? Am I gonna seem weak or can they not? But it's gonna feel so strange. Trust me. But it gets better. It gets a lot better, it gets easier, and I think your children will benefit from that. Just seeing that, oh, I'm having a hard time opening up and being vulnerable because I'm the adult and I'm supposed to have it figured out. But that's just like you were saying, it allows them to see that this is real. But don't give up, like keep doing it. You know, when you're in the ABA, the behavior world, we call it an extinction burst when you start putting in interventions and you think, oh, it's gonna get worse before it gets better. But I promise you, if you just keep doing it, it's gonna get better. Does she have a question?
How do you help a parent that struggles with mental health herself, but is afraid to seek help? It's such a good question. I'm in love with it. It's tough because not everybody is aware, and it depends on whether or not the parent actually is aware. So if the parent is unaware, you can't teach them to be aware. And I tell my clients who are like that and kind of have similar experiences, you have to remember you're an individual. Just because you were a vessel or a receiver of a vessel doesn't mean you're intertwined. Just because you're a sister, just because you're a partner, doesn't mean you're united in that way. If a person isn't ready to receive, you can't make them. Are you doing the work you need to do to be okay and be ready if they aren't? Sometimes as kids, you can't parent your parents. You shouldn't parent your parents. Sometimes you have to. But you need to have discernment. Discernment is a word I'm learning now, so I'm new here. But you have to know how much you can take if you're gonna try and support that parent through it. But you can never do more work than the parent. It's crucial for them to be willing to meet you, and it doesn't have to be halfway. I don't like that statement. It doesn't have to be halfway. They have to be moving. And if they're not moving, the thing I tell my clients, you have to be willing to move without them. And that's tough. But I had to move without a parent, and I am perfectly fine. It hurt. We cried, we pained, we angered, but I moved without them. And now it's better. But I had to do what I needed to do so that I could be okay. And then they were ready to receive it. Even if it's your only parent, you're never gonna be alone. Are there people in the community that have shown up for you? Are there people around you that do the work with you and for you? Because if they're showing up for you, that's enough. You never want to be in a room where you're not wanted, where you're not valued.
And that's what's important to remember. You matter, and you don't have to be in touch with a person that doesn't want to be your person. I've been blessed enough to have people. And it's because I'm very intentional about not being anywhere where I'm not wanted. You have to go where you're wanted, even if it means you gotta leave them behind.
I think also you're not alone. You are not alone. There are a lot of adults that are in that situation too. And you would think that, oh my gosh, I didn't have the parents or the life. Or once you start talking, you'll realize you're not alone, and you will find, the word, another buzzword is tribe. And your family is not just necessarily your blood. I had to learn that the hard way. It's the people that are around me. So when I started speaking, I realized that, oh, I'm not in this boat alone. And I started using a lot of I statements. When you do this, I feel. And you may think it's falling on deaf ears. But for me, I had to do it for me. I feel this way when you do this. So I've gotten it out to let you know how it makes, I'm, again, focusing on me. I can't change you. Because even though I know there are some things there and you need help, and you may not be able to help them, but what can you do for yourself to make you feel okay with it? I feel this way when this person does this. And find those other individuals and continue to talk and bring that out, and find the individuals that you can talk to and that you feel safe around. You can't save, you can save you. Don't lose who you are, and then allow those situations to shape who you want to be. I saw things happening around me and I said, that is what I am not gonna do. Again, I may have overcompensated a little bit, but I can say every situation, you use it to your benefit. You may think it's something bad, but what is this to teach me? What is this here for me to learn from it? This situation was brought before me, or I was born into it. Every generation is supposed to be wiser. What is this situation here to teach me moving forward? Instead of saying this happened to me, it's happening for me, to learn from, to be a better person, so you can be a better person for somebody else as well.
Before we go dive a little bit into your question, for those of you who are not aware what the Q card code is for, if you are uncomfortable with asking a question on the mic, you can just post your question there. Your name will be anonymous. We don't see the names, we just see the questions. So that's the purpose, and even for our online viewers, if you can see it, that's why we have that Q code there, because not everyone is comfortable with asking questions, especially when we're talking about such a heavy topic, okay? So,
I appreciate the answer both of you have given so far. You're not alone. Any day, in any situation, you're not alone. And I love telling my stories, because I meet people almost like every day with what I do. I grew up without, my mom passed away when I was 3 years old. And I used to see some children, when they don't respect their mom, I say, wow, I wish I had that. No matter how bad your mom is, I wish mine was here, right? And there was a story my dad always tells us growing up. And he said there was a village where there was completely famine. There was no rain, no food was growing for so many years. And people were dying of hunger. And there was this young guy that had one plantain, not banana, plantain, the red one, right? So he saw people were dying of hunger, and he climbed up to a big tree and said, I don't want to die in pain of hunger. I'm going to eat this plantain and fall down from the tree and just die. So as he climbed up to that tree and he was peeling that plantain, the peel that he thought wasn't good enough, that he was dropping, somebody was at the bottom of the tree waiting for it to survive on it. And he looked down and said, wow, I thought mine was the worst. So he climbed down and went home, and he survived that famine. So what am I saying is that no matter what the situation you have, domestic, financial, emotional, there are people, as long as you reach out, there are people who you will find yourself, oh, I thought mine was the worst, but I have some people that are going through the worst than me. And they can give you comfort, they can tell you the experience they're going through, and you can walk out, like they say, better off yourself in every situation and say, I'm going to better off myself and come back and change this situation. So I just want to share that.
All I was going to say is definitely pray. You definitely got to pray. Pray for the ones that you love. Pray for yourself. And in the midst of that, it's hard to separate yourself from someone you love. It is. When you can do the work for yourself to, like this lady said, how you can heal and what you can do, and maybe you can give back to your parent, your mom, your dad, your loved one. But you've got to do the work and maybe put in some boundaries. And you can love from a distance. My love may look different from being there with you presently, but I can pray for you, I can talk with you, and when I know that it may not be going the right way, say, okay, well, I appreciate the time. Right now I'm gonna go. You have a good day, and we can talk later. When you know the signs that may escalate the situation, and you sometimes have to remove yourself. But in the meantime, pray about it, talk with them if you can, and then set boundaries and give them resources.
It's tough. We're not gonna pretend like it's not. It's tough. Because it's someone you love, and you love them very dearly. But key is his boundaries. When you see it begins to affect you, boundaries, you gotta take a step back. Because even if you wanna help, you can't help at that point because now you are impacted by it in a negative way. And they may not want help. And that's something that you're gonna have to be okay with. Some parents, especially the older generation, they don't necessarily want help. They might know something is wrong, but you can know something, but not acknowledge it, because there's a difference. And acknowledging makes it more real than knowing. And a lot of times, they don't want to acknowledge. It's hard for them, because if I acknowledge that I have a problem, now I have to fix that problem. If I acknowledge that my problem is affecting my daughter or my son, now I have to do something about it. But if I pretend and separate myself, in psychiatry we call it disassociate. If I disassociate myself from it, then I no longer have to really deal with it, to be honest, because it's separate from me. But once the acknowledgement happens, change will come. But we can't force people to change. We can't force people to acknowledge. All we can do is love them and pray for them. And it will take time. But one thing I can guarantee you, she will come around. It might not be in your timing, but she will come around. So do your part, but protect this. Okay?
And I choose to believe that people do the best they can with what they have at that particular time. Resources we have now, we didn't have them back then. You know, I think about my parents and grandparents. They did the best that they could with what they had at that point in time. And yes, it's okay to set those boundaries, but don't take all of that on. Times have changed. We're different people. Protect yourself, but just find the positive. Find a way um, for your brain, in your brain, make it okay for you to protect you and your heart. And just understand that, again, that's me just choosing to see the brighter side of things. They did the best they could. If they had different resources, would it have been differently? I'm hoping so. But we have so many opportunities now, you know, and then we can model, you know, just model. I model what I want to see. And that's a way for me, because I'm sure if we talk, we're probably having similar, you know, situations. But protect your heart and choose to see the bright side, that if there were other resources and opportunities, they would have chosen those two.
All right, so we got a question that came up, and the question states, what if you want to talk to your parent, but before you guys had a conversation about whatever the situation may have been, and you expressed your feelings about how you felt about that situation, but the parent put their input in it, so therefore they pretty much weren't listening, or they were listening to respond, not to understand.
I like to say there are several ways of communicating. It may be verbally, or let me write you a letter, put it somewhere, or let me text you. But again, sometimes we can't control what other people say or do, or what they receive. But there are ways you just can communicate, and whether they get it, it varies. You hope that they do, but don't stop. Don't stop. You might just have to strategize and come a different way where to meet them, and that's challenging who you are and your growth in it. And if it's a kid, it's hard. It's hard, and you don't just have your parents, but you also have your teachers and your counselors you can go to, because they may listen to your parent. Your parents may listen to them differently than they will from a child. So use your options, use your resources that you have, whether it's your church member, your aunt, your cousin, your siblings, like Dr. Renell said her children do. So texting, or write a letter, or verbalize it to someone else. So.
You can't make someone listen. And so I think this goes kind of back to the same response we all kind of had to the last question, is you have to do things to protect yourself in that conversation. What would the response from your parent do for you? Do you need validation in that moment? And if so, why is your parent the only person that could give it? If you have other supports, can those other supports give you that same sense of validation? I think sometimes we get fixated on the person that we want the initial feeling from, and we forget that we're actually looking for a feeling. You don't have to have that one person give you that feeling. It could come from other people. And so it doesn't have to be your parent giving you the response for you to feel that feeling.
One thing that I have tried personally is I put a disclaimer out there. I want to talk to you, but I need you to listen to what I have to say, and I need you to not speak until you have completely understood what I said. For some it works, and for others it doesn't. But if you can put that out there from the beginning of the conversation, before the conversation starts, and if it gets to that point where it gets heated, and you clearly realize that person is not listening, do not raise your voice, don't get upset, just simply say, you know what? It's clear that you did not hear anything I said from the beginning, so I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste my time, so we're going to stop the conversation here. And it's okay, I'm not upset, you're not upset, we're all good. We're just going to leave it there, and that's it.
My kids used to disclaim, mother, don't get upset, but, or mama, don't get angry, but.
And I think the person has to have the ability to receive what you're saying. Sometimes we may not have the capability to receive it based on whatever else is blocking us. I can speak and talk all day long, and I feel like I'm talking to a brick wall. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. But is that person able to receive? And I know a lot of the things that we're saying, we're talking about boundaries, focusing on self, and it may sound selfish, but it's not. Because how can you be any good to anyone else if you're not okay? How people talk about pouring from an empty cup and putting on your mask first. I didn't learn till later in life how important, and if I could tell any youth now, that's what I would tell them, because I can't be any good, and it's not selfish. It's not selfish. I can't be any good to you, or anyone if I'm not good for me, if I have not found out and discovered who I am and what is my role. My role now is different from what my role was 5 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, and it changes. But it's not to sound selfish. You have to take care of you and protect you and find out who you are before you can be a help to anyone else. So there were 2 questions.
And I want to add something real quick, because I actually recently tried exactly what Dr. Rennell said. And yes, I put the disclaimer out there. And I made it, known to the individual. It was a parent, and I said, I'm going to express X, Y, and Z to you. I need you to listen. Conversation didn't end the greatest, but instead of getting upset, my response to the negative feedback that I was receiving, I said, I see that you're not at a place where you're ready to receive what I'm saying. So we're gonna end the conversation now. I love you, I'm gonna always love you. But we're gonna just end the conversation now so neither of us say something we cannot take back. So I agree putting the disclaimer out there, but a lot of times when we put the disclaimer out there, it don't always go the right way. And it might end up into an argument. But again, protect yourself, right? Because what does the word say? There's life and death in the power of our tongues. Once you get upset and you release a word, you can't take that word back. It's out there in the atmosphere. So even when we're trying to express to a parent, a friend, a spouse, how we feel, make yourself mentally prepared that they're either going to accept it or they're not going to accept it, and be okay with both scenarios. And if it gets to a place where it does get heated, take a step back and say, hey, let's change the subject. We'll try this another time. And that is okay. That's okay to do. Want to add something?
I was just gonna say that I also noticed, like, I used to feel selfish. Anything I did for myself, I've always been a helper. It's my role, right? But I noticed that all of my relationships became more genuine, became more intentional, became healthier the minute I decided to focus on my own mental health. I've been able to foster way more significant, powerful bonds with people that I've been friends with, people I wasn't friends with, and became friends with, whatever the case may be, because I show up differently in every room I'm in now. If I was who I was when I was worried about being selfish, I wouldn't be in this room. I wouldn't be on this stage. I wouldn't be a therapist. Selfish is not about doing things for yourself. It's about the refusal of doing things for the benefit of it's different. There's nothing selfish about loving yourself, doing for yourself, and showing up for yourself. And if you have no problem giving, you also should have that same energy when it's time for you to receive.
First of all, I want to thank all of you guys for coming up with this panel and talking about some of these touchy subjects. My question is, I think you raised a very, very good point that, you have to, work on yourself first. Maybe in your eyes or through your lens, right, what you're presenting is the best version, right, to somebody. But at the end of the day, what if the receiver is viewing that as like, what is this person talking about in a completely different lens? Because at the end of the day, you're being genuine and you're, pouring out your feelings, or you're giving, or you're being selfless. And in that person's eyes, it's like, what's this person talking about? Or it's like, this is just totally taboo, or, not done, and it's not being received. How do you work around that? Because I think it's very, very hard. In today's day, with what's going on, it's so challenging to be completely, genuine and transparent without like tripping on somebody's foot?
What I have done, because I have a good friend, and that's a perfect example. We are working through this now, and I can say something and I'm being as sincere, like I'm practicing, like what I'm teaching, really working on me still, and she'll take it and it's something totally different, just as negative. Like, that is not what I meant. And so I have to pause a minute and say, hold on, let me find another way to communicate what I'm saying, because she only saw it from a negative lens, and that goes back to me saying sometimes you have to give people a different perspective, because that's all they know. No matter what you say, it could be roses and everything, and they just see it as something negative because it's what's been planted subconsciously in that person and what they grew up around. But they don't know any different until you teach them and show them something different. I used to work in APS, Atlanta Public School System, and downtown by the dome, by the aquarium, and we had students who had never been outside of their little community, and everything was accessible to them. And they said, oh, we're not gonna take them because they don't know how to act. And I said, well, how would they know how to act if they first have not left their environment, and if we're not teaching them anything differently? So they are going. So they can see that it is something else outside of their little community, and really outside of what you're teaching them. I gotta work on your psyche now, because you have to show them something different. So sometimes it's always a negative, 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 because that's all they've ever known. But are we at a place where we can show them and talk to them? And even though they may not receive it right now, but I still like to say it's like planting seeds. It's like planting seeds. They don't know any different if you have not talked to them or shown them anything different. It's like, what is this? This is foreign. But you still have to give them the opportunity to learn. If that's all, if you're the one sitting there that's contributing to the negativity, no, we have to put a barrier right there. But what if? And I tell her a lot of time, well, think about this. Did you look at it that way? And she'll say, Jay, no, I didn't. I didn't even think about it that way. So we have to have a different perspective. Again, that's me doing my intrinsic work, so I can be that person. And again, that's that self-love, that's caring about me, so I can show up differently for other people. And she had no idea or even to think that, oh, that is another option.
Something that I do is I try to remember that perception is reality. That's true for me, but it's also true for them. And so we have to remember that their perception is their reality. And that's the tricky part. You're trying to shift that. And if someone was trying to shift my perception, that's not reality, I don't have a problem. Because I know what I feel, and this is what it is. Similar to what you were saying. What I typically do, especially for me, because it does come up a lot, I hear them being ready to receive, and I'm okay with shifting my perception to match their reality. You have to be able to hear them enough to understand what they're trying to communicate and be comfortable with switching your message to make it something more palatable for what they're perceiving. Because if not, now that's selfish. You're only thinking about your perception. But in any dynamic that requires two or more, you have to consider other people.
I'm gonna throw a wrench in that one though. Because some people are they're just negative. No matter how you switch it, you turn it, you flip it, it says blue and black, and it's still purple, they just negative. So I would say just be mindful of that. Everything that they've said is absolutely correct, but there are some people, they're unpleasable. No matter how you change it, how you shift, how you present the information, all they see is negative, and that's because they're operating from where they are in that season. There are some people who respond out of trauma. They respond because they're sad, they're angry about something. Has absolutely nothing to do with you. But the situation is familiar to them, and therefore they're responding from that space. So I would say, if that happens in that example, don't get offended. Just take a step back and just say, okay. Because we can't please anybody, we can't change anybody. We can't please everyone. There's some people who are pleasable, there's some who are not. The only person that we have control of is self. So if you present yourself in a certain way, a genuine way, and that person is still not receptive of it, still love them, but let it be okay. And don't get offended by it.
Now, I'll even go into another perspective on this because, Jennifer and I deal with children all day, every day. And you do find children because this is what their environment is like. This is what they do regularly. You say one thing and they completely turn it around to something that it's not. So a lot of times with kids, what I tend to do is I ask them, tell me what you heard me say. And they'll repeat it, and it is a total opposite of what I just said. And then I said, okay, so listen, and I will break it down into 3 or 4 different parts because I will say one part, and then I said, repeat what I just said. Not tell me what they heard me say, but repeat what I just said. And once they repeat it, I ask them, okay, now, what do you think that means? Because that gives them the time to actually process what they heard, to think about it, and then realize what you're trying to say. And I do that with adults also because you have adults that are extremely negative. They see things from one perspective. They don't always understand the points that you're trying to make. And they tend to go off the deep end just because they're expecting that negativity. And when people are always expecting the negative, they stay in that space. They don't know how to get themselves out of that space. And no matter what you say, you could say, I have $100,000 sitting right there for you. And all they heard was, I want you to give me $100,000. So it's how sometimes it's the interpretation, sometimes it's perspective. But again, it always goes back to you knowing better and asking them to break it down for you, re-explain it, and then have them repeat it back.
But that's true, but also if they have the ability to do that. So people have different cognitive levels, cognitive abilities, and the same friend that I was just talking about, she's trying to rationalize something with an individual whose comprehension is different, their cognitive ability is different, and she'll ask, well, I know this is the case. This is how far this person can perceive this. Give me some strategies and some tools to help them understand. So while we can say, tell me what you heard, we also have to realize that some people's cognitive ability to comprehend is different based on their background. We just have to always remember that. And it's not that they're either less than or whatever, we have to meet them where they are. Then we have to learn, or if you want to, or feel like it, or have time to, okay, this is important to me, this person is important to me, let me break it down to where I know they can understand, let's start there, and build from there.
Those are some good questions. Any more questions from the audience? No questions? Comments?
I feel really, my therapy heart, I like you. I feel very connected to you and your story. And you remind me a lot of who I was when I was still doing the work. And again, it's not easy. Ooh, I'm not getting emotional in the last hour. Y'all can forget about it. It's not easy doing the work. I do the work every day, but I now inspire other people to do the work in my work, in my life, and I have touched people in this room, outside of this room, and in this world. You are not your story. Your story is not you. It's just a piece. And if my story stopped when
when I felt the things you feel right now, I would not be as successful as I am. I'm not even 30. And look at me. It is so much power in believing in yourself. That's how you grow. That's how you heal. You have to create. Sorry, that's my nephew. I got auntie ears. You have to create an environment, a community, church, God, your relationship. I had this conversation with Alicia. My spirituality is individual to me. I felt like God wasn't there for me at times. But then I realized, yeah, he was. He just wasn't always where I thought he should be. And I had to connect with him differently. Exactly. I get you, trust me, more than you know. But I'm okay. And if there was ever a definition of you're not alone, I've been where you are. And some days, literally a couple days ago, I felt like I was where you are again. But I'm not alone. And if I'm not alone, you're not alone, and we're all in one space. You just have to remember that even when it's hard. So your perception can be changed into a new reality.
And that's the trick of the enemy. Oh, sorry. That's the trick of the enemy, to make us think that we're alone. No one hears us, no one sees us. And it's funny, this year when I was thinking about the title for 2024, that was the title, You Are Not Alone. Because we're not. God sees us. Even if your mom doesn't see you, God sees you. We see you. And I've been wanting to give you a hug for a minute now. So I'm just going to come off this thing and give you this hug.
It must be something, because I resonated with you when I sat down and I looked at you. It was something about you that just resonated. And so give her a big hug for me too, because it's not in vain. It is not in vain.
And I definitely think wellness is a continuing basis. It can't be like, okay, I'm good, and you stop the work. It's like if I'm trying to get some muscles, I'm trying to lose some weight, I have to put in that work. And once I meet where I think I might be at, I still have to do work to maintain it. So it's going to be a continuing basis. It's not going to stop until, how he said, till we wrapped up. So.
Can I say something? This is my granddaughter, and I am so overjoyed her being here, receiving this word today. I knew that there was something, but I just prayed about and gave it to Jesus, you know, and then just to see how he's unfolding this, and she's getting her healing. It's beyond words. I remember 2 days before she came here to visit me from out of town, I had brought her picture up to the altar because we had family dedication last Friday. And something that I just know is the Lord told me, take her picture up there. She's not here physically, but there's a point of contact. So I took the picture, her photo up there. And 2 days later, she was at the doorstep. Surprised me and said, Grandma, here I am. And I hadn't seen her in, I think, about a year. But I had always been praying for her. And so just being here, experiencing this, is just bringing so much joy to my heart. Because I know that this is a healing. Hallelujah. So God bless y'all. God bless y'all. Because what y'all doing is saving people. This is a ministry. And y'all are really blessing. You know, and for her to even have the courage to speak up and ask a question, it shows a lot of strength.
For you to show up for her the way you are takes a lot of strength too.
Amen.
And it's so important, and that's what I was saying to her about community. You're a part of that.
Yes.
Pour into her as you have, no matter where she is.
Amen.
And if you do decide to take that step to leave, that's the kind of community you need to grow.
someone who will pour into you instead of continuing to take. We talked about half empty, half full. You need somewhere where you can receive and give in whatever your heart desires. And that's what I meant by being where you're wanted. Not where you're needed all the time, but where you're wanted.
Can I ask another question? It's so sad about the numbers of the suicide, especially I heard about the young people up to 17 years old. Do you know if a lot of those children were in situations where they couldn't talk to their parents?
Most of them.
Most
of them.
And that's sad because she's 19, so she's legally able to get an outlet. But those kids that don't have that legal right to leave home and they're still stuck where they can't, they feel trapped, you know, they can't get on a plane because they're not legally able to. That's just sad to my heart.
It is. And I see a lot of adults right now that, you know, when I talk to them, the first thing they said at 14, at 10, at 12, I felt this way. Yeah. And one of the things for me that I charge myself with, for God to help me to help that 4-year-old and that 5-year-old so they won't be 25 coming and see me.
Amen.
Because we can catch it early. We just got to be available.
Yes.
And willing.
Yes. Amen.
And if I do catch them when they hit 18, 20, whatever the case may be, my young adult clients, my goal is to make sure I poured into you enough to where you don't need to come back to me the same way.
Amen.
Yeah.
You have to stay the course of mental health until you're done. I've done therapy. I didn't decide to go to therapy until I was well into grad school, actually. That's not the point. But when I did decide to go to therapy, I've been back 3 times. Once for trauma, once for, okay, now that I know I got trauma and I got triggers and all that and I'm angry, why all these people around me don't understand that and they get on my nerves, right? So I went back for that. Apparently, I need to do things differently, and so I do. But now, what do I do with everything you've given me? It's so important, and like you were saying, to continue the work, it literally will continue forever because it's you. So as long as you're alive, the work will need to be done.
And I will also share, as you move in stages in life, I'm just now learning this, you're still going to make some adjustments because it's going to look different. What you do at 18 is going to be different from 28, from 28 to 38, 38 to 48, 48 to 58. And don't bring in the Mother Nature changes. That's going to put it in a whole new different realm.
Yes.
But you still use the tools and you change them a little and adjust to them and keep the foundation, one, God in your life, prayer, consistently. That's number one. And create a community, like she said, and also pour into yourself. That's a very important thing. You have to pour into yourself. If y'all don't mind, I do have something I did want to share. In grad school, we had a project. Our professor said, look, when you come to class, I'm going to give y'all a project to do. At the end of the semester, we'll know who did it. So what she said was get 2 jars. In each jar, you put cooked rice in it. And then in the jars, you put water in it. One jar you put in a bright place and speak positive and encouraging words to this jar. The second jar you put in a dark place and speak negative words to this jar for about 30 days or more. So I decided to finally do the project. I didn't do it in school, but I did it. And I'm going to show y'all what it looks like. Don't mind. I did the project at home, and I was kind of amazed. So this is the jar that I put in a bright place. It with rice and water. It still look a little bright. So I'm gonna put that there. And this is the second jar I put in a dark place. I don't know if you can tell the difference. Can you tell?
Yeah.
So basically what they're saying is our this is what can happen. But when you speak negative things to yourself, you can become dark on the inside. So that just shows that it's true. There's some principles in life that is change. You can't change it. So it didn't get as dark as I wanted to because I try to be a cup always full. So I don't know how to always speak negative things. So, but just to show the difference, if y'all can see.
And that negativity doesn't stay in. It comes out. It comes out. Because it's just like if you shake a soda bottle, it's going to eventually open and it's going to blow out. So speaking life is so important. My kiddos that I help, we do more talking than we do prescribing medicine. At least I do. That's probably why they stay with me a whole lot. Because we do a lot of talking.
Yeah, you're their therapist.
But my thing to them is, I said, when you meet me, you're gonna leave me one day because I'm not gonna keep you forever. And my goal is to make you a better version of yourself so you can be a better version to society. So we're gonna speak life. So even when they're speaking negativity into the poem, I said, no, we're not gonna say that. That's not true. That's a lie. The truth is, I hear how you feel, but the truth is, I get what you're saying, but the truth is, and I keep reminding them the truth, because that's where the weight is, the truth. But if we fester on the lie can become the truth. So I teach them, speak what you want to see happen. I had a client that came in and it was a negative situation on the school bus. She's a school bus driver. And she was like, I'm gonna lose my job. I said, no, we're not gonna say that. I said, trust me when I say you're not gonna lose your job. It is going to be okay. So until you hear from them, this is what we're gonna do. 30 days she came back, she still had her job. We can shift so many things in our lives. And again, and we said it in the beginning, people always think about depression, anxiety, oh, this child has this, has that, but it started from somewhere. And if we fix the somewhere, it will not get to depression, anxiety. So if you notice, this year the conversation is different because the why is what's really important. Not the end result, the why. Because the end result can change, the why doesn't. We fix the why to change the end.
I absolutely agree. I want to remind you too, we're not having these conversations with social media. We're not having them with the people that are impacting you. We're having them with you because the work has to start and finish with you. If it was any other way, it would have to be you, your loved ones, whoever. I believe that we will impact everybody who's ready to receive, what we're saying because you plan on doing it for you. And that's what you have to remember. And it's not selfish, it's human. It should be as easy as you choosing to love somebody. And if it's not, you got work to do.
I know you asked about the little ones. I call them the littles, like when they're 4 and 5 and things like that. What you're saying is what makes it even more important that we show up as our best versions, because in the education system, it's already a shortage, and they're just putting people in classroom in front of kids. You have to be very mindful. And even when I'm, hiring and interviewing, I'm very mindful of who's stepping in front of my children. So that's why we have to show up as a better version of who we are, who we're supposed to be, and walking into the ministry that we're in, because you are impacting the lives of those littles who don't have the voice of an 18, 19, 20-year-old, making a big impact on those children.
You see your brain that wheel just turning.
I guess the best analogy that I could use to kind of give you a little bit, because for whatever reason, it's like everybody on the panel has said, you walked in and you just stuck out. When we in our line of work and in our daily work, we have to do what's called we sit to read reports, go through meetings and things like that. And part of that is called a comprehensive evaluation. So they look at the overall child and tell you what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are, what are the things they struggle with, what needs to be done. And at the end of that report, we're given a list of strategies, positive reinforcements or reinforcements to use with them, whether it's educational, whether it's behavioral, all of it. When you put those practices into place, long term, what you see is that child improves, they do better. When you know the things that work for that child, or you can look at it and say, let's try this strategy, let's try that. And you start to notice the changes. You see the positivity in that. But when you've been given those strategies and you don't, then nothing happens. What you're describing is not anything that I can say any of us have not gone through, because life is hard. But I think for all of us, the foundation of what we deal with or how we live our lives is God. But with that being said, what you're dealing with, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's a journey. Not only are you going to have to be patient with yourself, and that's the biggest piece, you're going to have to be patient with yourself. And you have to be patient with people around you. And the people around you are going to have to learn to be patient with you. Because you're going to have moments where you're going to falter. You're going to have moments where you're just, no one understands what you're going through. Because I'm 44 years old. And I think my circle knows when something's not right. Because they will not hear from me for days. And they're just like, wait, when was the last time I talked to you? Get out of the house. They know. These are not people that are family, because the people that I'm closest to are not family at all. So you have to, one, I know your grandma is a person that's in prayer a lot. So make her that point for you until you're comfortable being there yourself. But speak positivity to yourself, speak positivity into your life, because it's not an easy journey. It's not an easy road. It is not an easy marathon. There's bumps, there's bruises. You're going to fall and have to pick yourself back up and figure out how to start over or figure out how to do it again. And it's going to be a constant thing. But make sure that you keep God at the forefront of that. Because if you do not, that's where you're going to face the obstacles. That's where you're going to face the difficulties. Because we all fall. But we don't have a choice but to get back up and keep pushing every single day. It's like I said before, she has a daily thing, daily, weekly, that check in with me to make sure I still have a job. And we laugh about it, but she knows when I walk into that building, if something goes wrong with the child, 9 times out of 10, I have to pray, walk away, shut my door, pray again, and figure out if I can leave that office in an hour or 30 minutes. But the beauty of this is there's always somebody in your corner, and you have to always remember that. It's hard to get away from the negative at first, but you gotta keep pushing.
We definitely all have somebody. Kayla and I work together. And when she sees that message come across the screen, hey, we need to talk, she knows what time it is. And vice versa. When she's having a hard time, she knows she can reach out to me. Don't care what time of the night it is. We'll talk about it. So community is very big, but the right community is what's important, because we talked a lot about community, but community means many different things to many different people. The key at the end of the day is whomever you have in your circle that's within your community, that they are pushing you to be a better version of yourself. Because there are people at times who are in a community, but they're bringing them the opposite way, and it's doing more harm than good. There's a question in the back, I believe. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's me again. And I'm so happy about this environment right now, this discussion. And I know that it's not easy with the young lady. It's not easy, just like everybody's saying. Find a community. You are so fortunate you have a grandma that's a praying grandma that's always going to be there for you. Now, it's so tough to switch this question now to something that you said, so I forgot your name. Right? You mentioned something that you say you want to be careful who you put in front of your children, of your child. Now, my children, they go to public school, and I don't have much control over that. And sometimes they come home, you see there are things that they should do, and sometimes you see that maybe there's some part that you also play, and some part that the teacher also should play. And you want to be careful, you want to know who this teacher is, right? You pray about it, you have some spiritual instinct, right? You want to know exactly who this person is and what they are talking to, what they are teaching your children. But you know that you have some limitations as well to who will be their teacher. So in that situation, having been through my youngest is 15 years old now, and I'm like, okay, haven't had this experience in so many times. What I always tell my children is, no, this child, I mean, you complain about this teacher, but you are not there for that teacher. You are there to learn. You may not like that teacher, or that teacher may not like you, but you are there to learn something. So it has worked in some situations, but I don't know if there might be a different approach to that. Like what you say, knowing who is talking to my child. Because these hours they spend at school, I'm not there. And I sometimes don't know what they are what they are telling them. So how do I approach that other than the way I have done before? Like than telling them, hey, you are there to learn, you know what they do, you know what they say, but focus on your study, right? If they do something that you don't like, or they say things, because some of the teachers say things that does not match with the core value that we are raising them, and they know that. And sometimes just one thing can actually like tune them off from that teacher. So what other approach apart from what I have done can be more helpful to that child in that scenario?
I think the first thing what you're saying is very important, where it starts in the home with what your morals and your moral compass and your values are for your home. What I've done, and a lot of times like we talked about earlier, you know, our work life can kind of take a hold of everything to where we're not involved. Be as involved as much as you can. If there is an open house, you know, and I know we can meet people and discern and feel energies of people, and we know our children through communication and things like that. But every time the door opens, and if there's an invitation for me to be there, I even put myself on her school council for the past 8 years. I sit on the school council so I can know the ins and outs of what's going on in the school. So if they're looking at the behavior data, if they're looking at the academic structure and the gains, and if they're over count for next year and in the enrollment, I'm looking at that and I'm asking questions. Sometimes they're uncomfortable questions that they don't want to answer or can't answer, but I'm there asking questions. And like, for example, the school council meeting is once every quarter or every other month for an hour and a half that morning. That's dedicated time that I'm telling my job, I'm not going to be here because this is what I'm doing with my daughter, and that's important. If there's a curriculum night, if there are early release parent conferences, I'm sitting there, and my child, if she has the ability to come, she's sitting there with me. And then I'm talking to the teachers and letting them know this is the type of learner she is. There are visual learners, auditory learners, different things like that you probably don't even get a questionnaire about with your child. But if the door is open and I'm available to go, And sometimes when I'm not available to go, I put myself there so they can see my face. If something comes up and I'm not able to be there, oh, best believe I'm emailing them or I'm asking for a conference. And then when I'm sitting on the school council, I'm there with the principal, the assistant principal, the counselor, so there has to be a certain body of people on that team. So I just make myself present. I am involved. Now with her being in high school, it looks a little different because you have to be chosen and all that. But I want to know, why do I have to be chosen in high school when these are the crucial years where before I could just put myself on that? But so it's things like that. Schedule a meeting with the teacher. There are certain teachers that I just didn't feel right with her, but I stayed in her ear at home to say, yes, the teacher is teaching this, which may be totally against the word or totally against what we expect, but I'm in her ear teaching her, this is what it means to us as our core values. Yes, you're learning this in this history book, but let me tell you what's really going on that's not being seen in the books. So I schedule those meetings. I have those conversations, even if it's 15, 20, 30 minutes. That's how I get involved. I put myself into things to know what they're talking about. And then I'm able to feel just the spirit of that individual that's in front of her. And she had one particular teacher almost every year during middle school, and that last year I said she will no longer have this person. And so you can, put yourself in those situations.
And in my experience, because we have children that are literally a month apart, one of the things that I did was attending open house was extremely crucial for me, because I need you to know I know my child. I need you to know that these are my expectations and that I'm always available to communicate with you. And whatever's going on, I want to know, because I made it a regular thing that I was on that portal looking at his grades on a weekly basis. If I wasn't doing it on Monday, I was doing it on Friday. And if I saw something that was out of whack, we were having a conversation. What's going on with this class? Why aren't you doing this? What's going on with that class? Why aren't you doing this? He was not a child that complained much about his teachers or school, but you know when he didn't like a teacher. So my question to him was always, okay, well, what did the teacher do? Or what did you do that made the teacher not like you? Because clearly something happened, whether it was you decided that you weren't going to do what she asked you to do, or she just doesn't like you, whatever it is, the shape of your head, it doesn't matter. But I want you to tell me what's going on. And then from that, the teacher and I have a conversation. Okay, this is what he said. So you tell me what's going on in your class, and how is it that I can support you and him to ensure that we're not having these issues. And in my experience, I have had nieces and nephews that have been in Gwinnett County schools forever and a day. And one of my very first experiences with Gwinnett County was I had a nephew who was basically about not to graduate from high school because he was having difficulties with some of his classes, and the teachers would not respond to his parents' email. So I got involved. And some teachers will be like, well, no, I don't have to do this, and I'm not gonna do this. Well, I'm fine with you not doing this, but I'm going to take it to the next level, because if you're not going to respond to me, but you will respond to your assistant principal or to your principal. And if I can't get them to respond, then I'm going to go to assistant superintendent. I make it my business to know who is in those buildings, and I make it my business to know who the board members are, who the assistant superintendents are, everybody that works in the county office. Why? Because if I can't get a teacher to respond, I'm going to get an assistant principal to respond. And if I can't get that, I'm gonna keep going up until I get someone to respond to me about something. Because at the end of the day, that's my child. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure my child's being respectful in your class. But I need you to work with me to make sure that's happening. And if I can't get you to work with me to make sure that's happening, I'm going to find somebody that will help both of us understand what's happening and how it's happening.
I agree with you guys 110%. Because I think Kayla would agree with me. When clients come in to see us, I push parents to get involved, know the teachers, and we can't give legal advice from a psychiatric world. But I do tell my parents, this is your child, so you do whatever it takes to make sure your child is okay. Because from the mental health perspective, I have a lot of parents that come in and say the teacher is bullying their child. The teacher is picking on their child, and they don't know what to do. My Hispanic population, the mothers and the dads who don't speak English, that they don't have a voice. I reach out to my therapist, say, hey, coordinate a meeting with the principal and the counselor to get this taken care of. I literally had a situation with a young lady. Her teacher was bullying her. And I told the brother, I said, I know mom doesn't speak English, but you get with mom and I will email the therapist and we will get that handled. She came back 2 months later, it was handled. So you have to get involved. Because a lot of teachers, not unless a lot, there are teachers that will not reach out to you. So you have to be that parent to know who's your child teacher. And just like Dr. Randall said, okay, so the teacher don't like you, but why? What did you do? How did you respond? Because it's both ways, because some children, they do get out of pocket. Can we agree on that? But let's not forget the teachers also, they have their own biases as well. And sometimes they don't leave that bias at the door. They walk with it into the classroom. So definitely get involved. From 3 years old, 2 years old, get involved. My son is going into school and I'm very involved. I'm that parent. Well, you're not gonna listen to me, okay? I'll put on my suit and we can match energies if you want to. Because God gave me the responsibility to take care of him now. So if I don't do my job, then the world will do the job for me. And that's what we don't want. So definitely, I can't say it enough, get involved. Know those teachers.
It's true. I remember back in the day, I know this is odd, but back in the day, parents did pop-ups. Pop-ups. I pop up at my grandbaby's daycare. They don't even know I'm coming. She don't know I'm coming. I'm peeping through the window. I'm talking to the teachers. I'm talking to the directors. Hey, what's going on? Even when my kids were in school, I emailed even the bus driver. We're going to figure out, because you got my number, I'll meet you at the bus stop. I'm communicating. Communication is the key so they can know who I am. I'm involved. Okay, well, if I pick with her mom's going to be here. Absolutely. So definitely communicate from day one. Communicate monthly. You know, if you have to communicate weekly. With little kids, they would send papers home or folders to communicate what they done. They still do. Read the folders. You got any questions? Don't be afraid. Reach out. And if you need to, go to the office. Go to the principal's office and say, hey, I'm here. I need to meet with so-and-so. This is going on. And hey, that's it. Just be at the door, whatever the case may be. Call them. They got cell phones too. And they give you emails. So.
One of the things you said when you were talking about the Hispanic community, and they're now understanding, and it's not just Hispanic. You have Mandarin, Korean, African. There are, if you're thinking about just Gwinnett County, there are so many interpreters. You'll go into a meeting, or if you call for a meeting, if it's just for a parent conference, you can request for an interpreter or someone to be there to help you understand. And so I tell a lot of parents from other communities, request an interpreter. This is not anything legal. It's just that, hey, I'm a parent. I want to be involved. This is how much I want to be involved because I need to understand. And then there's others in the community, like Renelle and myself. And if it's just a question, a lot of times you'll kind of get stumped with special education. And there are so many acronyms and so much legality behind it. Find somebody that can walk you through that. When you go to them, I know Renelle has gone to meetings with parents, and not as an advocate, but just someone to help speak on your behalf or for you to understand. Because a lot of times parents don't understand, and the schools know you don't understand. And they can, yeah. So you have to be a part of that decision, but I need parents to understand what they're signing the line or not signing, or what your rights are as a parent, because you have rights.
All right, so I want to change gears just a little bit out, so we're coming down to the tail end of everything to talk about suicide, because that's important to talk about as well. It's increasing by the day, by the hour. Can't tell you how many hospital discharges I do in a week. It's a lot. But there's ways to prevent it. For at least the clients that I see, a lot of the times, it starts off with an identity crisis. They don't know who they are. They don't feel loved. They don't see self-worth. They feel like a failure. So therefore, why am I alive? So let's talk about it. Who wants to go first?
This is the source of my burnout right now, so I don't know. It's the bulk of my caseload, if I'm being honest. And it really does. It impacts me as a provider, me as a person. Suicide is super taboo. Like even saying the word, people are like, no, but it's all about feeling like you have nothing else. And there's a difference between hopelessness and despair. Despair is, you just don't want to be there. And if you have someone coming to you, or if you notice someone getting toward that point of despair, intervene. As whatever it is, a conversation like, I have friends who will come to me when they're struggling, and they're like, well, I don't want to bother you. You can't dictate how someone chooses to show up for you. Because I would rather intervene, no matter how tired I am, than someone I love ever get into the point of despair. Don't be afraid to ask the tough questions, because no matter what it is, all of it's tough for the person experiencing it. There's no question that they hadn't considered already. So there is no such thing to them as a hard question. A lot of it is identity, but no one really knows who you are until it takes a while. And even then, there are people who are full grown who don't know who they are. So no matter what the age is, be comfortable supporting someone and exploring that. You just have to be open to receiving difficult things. And I think we are in the era of be positive, be affirming, be validating. Don't be triggering. Put a trigger warning in things, but some things are so tough that the tough conversations need to be had. And you can't put a trigger warning on wanting to end your life. It's just there. And so if I could give any feedback as a provider for preventing suicide, be open. Don't be afraid. Be encouraging, but be resourceful as well.
And by asking the question doesn't mean that you're pushing them to be suicidal. They're already there. So you can ask the question. It's about how the question is asked, not the question that's being asked. But that's one of the myths that till this day, with how open we are as a society, people still believe by asking the question, I am going to push them into doing it. And that's a lie. That is a lie.
I think most times it's a scheme to save yourself from having to ask a tough question.
True. And it is hard to ask questions. And when you know someone may be suicidal, straight out ask them. Don't beat around the bush. Don't say, do you think? No, ask, are you suicidal? Are you having suicidal thoughts? And if they say yes, ask them, well, what are your plans? Now you're getting them to, bringing things to the front for them, like, hey, this is reality. What are your plans? Some may say, oh, I don't have no plans. Oh, well, okay, well, is this the first time you had suicidal thoughts? If they say no, then ask again, did you have plans back then? Because they may say, yeah, I had a plan back then. So when they don't tell you now currently about any plans, when they're in that moment, they can always go back to retract to what they thought about before. Ask them if they ever attempted to end their life, Sometimes they might say no to all first questions. And when you ask them, hey, have you ever attempted to end your life? Well, I did. Because you're getting them think differently. Because there's a difference between thinking, acting, feeling, and actually following through. And no completion, but those things happen. And when you ask, what are your means? Do
have any pills around? Do you have any ropes? Do you have a gun? Ask these questions, and if they say yes to anything, say, where are they? Where are these things located? Are they in your drawer? Are they on top of the refrigerator? And if they say, well, you know, my dad has a gun, I know where it is, or I do have a gun, ask them, is the ammunition in it? You have to ask detailed questions so you can find out where they are, and you can at least try to help them. So
I think we have to know our limit too, because in the school system, we'll do a threat assessment. And that's one of the questions. Have you thought about, do you have a plan? I work with psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, you know, social workers. My role stops at a certain point because they know the specific questions where they know they need to call GCAL, or if this kid needs to be 1013 or whatever the case may be. But you have to know what your limits are. And so if you ask them, do they have a plan, and they say yes, and they give it to you, and you're not skilled to know what to do with that information. And so you have to know what are the next steps. Again, what if they say yes, they have a plan, and they told you detail by detail, then what are you gonna do with that information? So you have to know your limits. Like they can come tell me, oh, Jennifer or Tolbert, they're doing XYZ. Okay, you're the LCSW. You're the child psychiatrist. Now, this is your role. You step into it. This is on you. But I know what my limits are, because I don't want to tell them, like you were talking about, the word suicide is so taboo now. They say, oh, you're going to unalive. You know, they don't even say the word. Now, you can't even type the word on social media. But you have to know where your part stops and the professional, because I don't want to give them advice that could cause them to feel some other type of way, and I've kind of enticed it or whatever, but know your limits.
And parents, those who, you know, in the audience and that's viewing, stop fighting the schools. They can only do but so much. They have a limit. If a child comes to them and that child says, I want to take my life and this is how I'm going to do it, they have to call the crisis center. That child has to be assessed. It is very different from a school setting, a therapy setting, and an appointment with myself. I can rationalize with them, especially if I know where they are. If a child comes to me, or an adult, and they said, I'm suicidal, I said, okay, so what's the thought? Some might say, I just, you know, I don't want to be here. Well, why? And we talk about it. But we talk about it if there's no plan. If there is an active plan, they are going to the hospital. But oftentimes, as a provider, we get frustrated because we hear parents and clients get upset with the therapist, with the school, because they sent them to the hospital. That's their job. They have to. Because what if, just what if, they didn't take it seriously and your child did not come back home that day? There will be a lawsuit against the therapist and the school. So I urge you, as someone who does diagnose and prescribe medications, let them do their jobs. Let them do their jobs. They're gonna eventually have to see us when they get discharged, and we'll take it from there. But there's a limit to what the school can do, and there's a limit to what a therapist can do as well.
I definitely want to take a moment because, again, such of a burnout. There's a lot of suicidality right now. We're in one of those times that we were talking about earlier. So I have done at least 5 hospital discharges in the past 2 weeks. In the spirit of letting us do our jobs, we let you do yours, but know when it's time to do yours. I'm not your kid's parent. I don't try to be, because you know that's too much paperwork, and I can't claim no kid on my taxes, so I'm not doing it. I don't. If you're not involved, I'm not gonna make you as a therapist. But what I will do is teach your child, hello, how to be okay if you're not. In hospitalization, don't wait until it's too late to clock in. A lot of times, every time, a client of mine or someone else gets hospitalized, the parent's like, oh my God, I had no idea. well, now I want updates and I want to be super involved in treatment. You should have been from the beginning, because it's a part of that journey. Suicide is the last step. The signals are important. Don't wait to wake up at the end. Stay alert and stay awake throughout. That's how you prevent it. We can do it. I'm great at my job. I believe so most of the time. I know I can help them, but I'm only with them an hour a week, sometimes two. That's it. I'm not meeting with them more than that. You're with them way more.
And to kind of like paint a bigger picture of this, or kind of help people understand, every single adult that works inside a school building is a mandated reporter. So if we know it, whether it's abuse, whether it's suicide, whatever it may be, we have to report it. We are required to report it. And to even go even further, it is part of our code of ethics. They could take our license for it if we don't report it. And even when we have to do a DFACS report on a child, or whatever the case may be, trust me, it is not because, oh, we're just sitting there calling DFACS. We don't have a choice in the matter. But I will say this, to kind of go back on the question that he asked earlier about what to do. When you're involved with what's going on with your child, when you know what's going on, for me anyway, a lot of times if I see something going on with a child and I'm not sure what's going on, but I know I have constant communication with that parent, my first point of contact is that parent. Hey, I noticed this. You might need to, pay attention to this, or whatever the case may be. Because if I know you're already aware of what's going on with your child, then I'm not going to worry about it. Yes, I'm going to report it to the counselors. Yes, I'm going to report it to the social worker. But I know that I've communicated with you and you're like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, then I feel a little bit better about the situation. But teachers, anybody in a building, are mandated reporters. We don't get to keep that stuff to ourselves.
And it's not just mandated reporters during the school hours. I am mandated if I see you in the grocery store doing something you're not supposed to be doing to your child. I'm a mandated reporter if I see you standing on the corner with the child holding up a sign saying, we need food or whatever. I'm supposed to intervene, and it's not always in a negative way. It's not always in a negative way. I need you guys to get help. I saw this child standing outside by the Walmart holding a sign with the family, even though I probably know different or whatever, but at this point, this is what I see, and this is what can help that child. So in education, educators are always on. We're never off. We're never off duty. I could be at the rec, at the park, at a game. I am still on as a teacher. So it's not just mandated during the school hours, we're mandated, period.
So I know, speaking with some young children, they would say, I told my teacher, I told my counselor, but they don't pay me no attention. So what is in place for teachers to, I know it's not teachers' responsibility at all times, but is there anything in place for teachers to reach out to parents or even a mandated reporter when this is going on? Because kids say, hey, I reach out to them, but they're not helping me. So how do counselors or schools supposed to proceed with that?
Teachers are supposed to report what students report to them to a counselor. What I always tend to do is, one, there has to be, what I tend to create is like a paper trail. Because if a child comes to me and says, this is what's going on, I may talk to the counselor personally, but I still log it somewhere so that way I know on this date, at this time, I informed this person, and that person, this is what was going on with that child. Once I've done that, then the counselor is responsible for the rest of it.
What about confidentiality? When they say, I don't want to talk to them because they might tell my parents.
A lot of times I'll have a student come to me and say, hey, I want to tell you something, and you can't tell anybody. Well, I tell the student, well, if it's something to harm you, I'm sorry, I have to tell. And I think they trust me enough to know that, and a lot of times they want you to tell it. They'll just tell you that. But if that child did not get a response from that first person, I would tell them to tell somebody different. Because what's going to come back, if it's any merit to whatever is going on, and it's not up to us in the school. That's defects, they rule out, we just report. But if that first person did not report it and something happened, then they're in a world of trouble, because this was brought to you and you have 24 hours? 24 hours to report this, but this child had to go tell somebody else, and now 3 days later we have an issue. You just violated your code of ethics as an educator to report certain things. And so that's where you as a parent being knowledgeable of these things and just talking and being involved is very, very important. Don't leave the schools to raise your children, be in partnership with them. That's when you'll get the best results. Even if you have to go to a football game on the weekend, even if you have to go to a chorus concert or whatever the case may be, as an educator, then you get involved. You get involved so that family will know if something's going on, then we are the direct communication before we have to bring anything else into the picture. Let's fix this between us.
As a therapist, when I'm having these kind of conversations, I think being transparent is one of my favorite and best qualities of myself as a provider. What I typically will tell you as soon as I finish telling you if you harm yourself, I gotta report it, is if it's ever between your life and our dynamic, I'm choose life. And I even break it down as far as understanding there are more people who will need help if you choose to leave me because I won't save your life. And you sometimes you just have to be that blunt with them because they genuinely get so attached to the bond they build, because for some people, a therapist is their chosen person. They don't have anybody else. I've had to report defects on one of my favorite, closest clients. Hurt my heart, but I still did it with a smile. Because I need you to be okay, even if our dynamic isn't as a result. So I usually start there. The other thing is, when I hear that initial report and I know that we're gonna have to discuss hospitalization and other options, I wanna hear all your fears up front. So in addition to asking you the serious questions about suicidality, what is your biggest fear with it? What kind of facility are you afraid of? Do you have history with facilities that don't work out? I'll chat Alicia and say, hey, which ones are good, which ones are bad again? Because I wanna make sure I'm not doing more damage. Hospitalization can be very traumatizing. So on the other side of it, I'm letting you know up front, when you get out, we're gonna process it. We're gonna work through it, because I know we'll have to, but you gon'. Like, that's pretty much the gist of it.
I do that as well. I set the expectations in my appointments, and I let my clients and my parents know what I do will be different from what happens outside my office. So if your daughter or son is having an appointment with that therapist and they say, I don't want to be here anymore, I'm going to do this and do that, they're going to do what's necessary to get your child help. You and I will have a conversation because I have that ability to do that. But if I have any suspicions that you're lying, I'm gonna send you. If my gut is telling me something off, you're gonna go. Do I enjoy sending people to the hospital? I don't, because I don't want to do the follow-up appointment. Because the follow-up appointment is worse than the initial appointment. Because they come back traumatized and upset. So I do my best. When a client meets me for the first time, I said, my goal is to keep you alive and out of the hospital amongst everything else. Because it's not like we want to do. We don't take pride in doing it. I can't tell you how many DFACS reports I had to submit in the past 2 weeks. I don't want to do it. But if a child is saying, I'm being abused, whether I believe them or not, they said they're being abused, I have to report it. So, when it comes to suicide, and I love it, I love that Keila said this, that's the end result. That's the end result. If we start from the beginning, we could avoid that part. But even if we're there, have the conversation if you feel that you have the ability to, because some people, they don't. So we have cases where, well, why is she suicidal? She got everything that she needs. She's being dramatic. Wrong approach, because you drive that child further into that thought process. So if you have the ability to speak to them in a calm, understanding manner, have that conversation. But do know if we have to report, we're not doing it because we're trying to hurt the parent or the child. I will choose life every single time. I have lost clients because I've reported stuff. And I'm okay with that because I get to sleep at night and know nobody's blood is on my hands. So it's okay to talk about it. I know it's taboo. It's been taboo for a long time, but it's okay to talk about it. Go to someone who you know you can trust. And if you don't have someone, text or call 988. There are people here every single day ready to listen. You just gotta reach out and know that we're ready to listen.
In addition to dialing 988, you can always text 741-741.
There were questions.
We talk about that suicide is up, right? But something is missing because before it got to suicide is a process. So do we need more education in terms of knowing the signs? Because I think that we're missing the signs. We misinterpret the signs that being seen. Like this commercial say, I'm communicating you every day that something is wrong, but you're missing it. So do we need to know more education about what sign to look for before they get to suicidal?
We do, and that's one of the reasons why we have seminars like this, and we need to have more things like this.
Well, maybe need to have more of that commercial and take some of those commercials that is negative commercial off and kind of hit the airway with, about suicide precaution, about what to look for, what signs to look for. So the public could be educated. I was a foster mom and there were certain things I knew to look for. And I know that when they start acting certain way, because sometimes they're acting all angry, think that they're just being rude and disrespectful, but they actually are looking for, okay, I need your attention. This is what's going on. You're not paying attention to me because I'm angry and I'm acting up, but you think I'm just acting out. But there's something that's behind that acting out. I think that's what we need to really educate about that more.
I agree with you. I think there's definitely more conversation to be had in a lot of ways. But the trick of it all is everyone's different, right? And perception, again, is reality.
That's true.
The signal is why are they like that?
Exactly.
Even if it is the example of being rude and disrespectful,
yes,
why?
Exactly. Why? Yeah.
I think that's just needs to be asked more.
Yeah.
And it can start in this room, right? Like there are several, I can think of at least 5 social, systematic things that we want to change.
Yes.
All of them have to start with us.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can change it by just asking why more, we can do that in our homes. I don't need to see the commercial. I can literally start asking why. My best friend right there, she looked tired. I'm gonna ask her why you look like that, right?
Yeah.
That's why. And it's simple, and it'll give her the space to tell me what that signal is.
I think we need to be more, like she said, discerning what people around you is going through.
Exactly.
And stop thinking that they're okay when they might not be okay.
Exactly.
Like ask the question.
Exactly. My therapist taught me this. I'm ready. We have to learn how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I didn't get it until way later, but I now understand it to mean that some things that we need to do, some conversations we need to have, some steps we need to take toward growth are uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes.
And we need to be able to sit with it and follow it through to get to the other side.
Right.
And we might not be able to change a commercial right now, but we can have forums like this.
Yes.
And go out in the community.
Yes.
Because all it takes is just simply one step.
It's true.
To make change.
It's true.
And the more we talk about it and make it normal to talk about it, and you literally erase the stereotype that's attached to mental health, the more change will come.
Yes.
It shouldn't have taken a pandemic
Exactly.
to get us to this point.
Exactly.
But it did, and here we are. And we're going to continue to keep pushing forward and keep raising awareness.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions as we begin to wrap up?
Girl, you gotta stop it here. I'm not even turning my mic on for you.
Did you hear what she said?
She said, I can't, now why you gonna have me repeat it? I said I didn't want to. She said she thanks God that there are people like us to do what we do. And I said, I don't want to cry, so I ain't gonna say it, and here we are, so.
I thank God too. Because I promise you this, and this is just my personal testimony, and I tell people all the time, I didn't want to come into healthcare. I was okay being a CEO and just sitting with my legs crossed and making money. But 2009, when I was working in the banking industry, my cry to God was, I want to do more. It has to be more than this. And that was 2009, and here I am. I didn't see in 2009 that I'll be sitting here having this conversation and making a difference in people's lives. I just know I wanted to help somebody. And I thank God for that. Because if it had not been for him, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing this. And I think we all could say the same thing.
Yes, I use my experiences to help other people. So now I know that things that I went through mentally, it was not in vain. Like, okay, God, I see you. Now, I don't know why you took me through all that, but I see you, and now I can use this to help other people, and it wasn't in vain.
For me, it's honestly a lot of things. It's definitely my own trauma and my own experiences, but it's also understanding the choice. You're choosing better for yourself. And I wanted a career that allowed me to help other people choose. And for me, I think that God told me at a young age, I was 12 when I decided that I wanted to do this, but every step to get there, every obstacle, every pain, every failure to get there is a part of what makes me so good at it. I'm so passionate about what I do. And I thank God for keeping me steadfast in that passion. I love that I have the ability to touch people with my words. We talk to people every single day. But my words hold extra value and extra power. And that is the beauty in it. And that's what I think God gave me, is the ability to touch people in the simplest way. Hello? It's intentional. And I have grown as a woman. I am, love y'all dearly, I'm young.
I am too.
Thank you for the disclaimer.
We all young, we all young. But what I'm saying is, do you know how many rooms I'm in where people remind me that I'm too young to be so wise, or I'm too young to be who I am? They don't get to decide that for me. God does. Even coming here, I was like, man, I don't know if I'll be able to connect with someone my age or who could really benefit from my message, because I don't know the kind of environment I'm coming into. I'm really just doing it for a friend, as I always will. But God wanted me to talk to you.
Yeah.
You're where you need to be. You know what I mean? And I love that I was able to be in a space where I'm supposed to be. And that's why I do what I do. It's moments like this.
Well, ladies, thank you all so much. I know it's Memorial Weekend, y'all could have been anywhere. Cooking, sleep. But you guys took the time out to come and bless another human being, in person and virtually. So thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you to the media team that wrapped it out and kept us going. And so Rapha Health Ministry is a department within this church. And we have a few of our team members here. We have Alex in the back and the department head, Antoinette. So thank you guys so much for just continuing to support. And then we also have Ms. Amethyst as well. But the most important person I want to thank is our First Lady, because she saw the vision. She saw the vision, y'all. And that is why we are here today. So I want to invite Pastor Victoria up. Our beautiful, classy First Lady who gets out in the trenches and makes things happen. Thank you so much for giving us this vision and for allowing us the platform. I don't take this lightly, so thank you.
Hallelujah. I just also want to use this opportunity and thank each one of you. This is a ministry. When it comes to the calling of God, each one have what God put in us before we even came here. And what you do, there is no way I can do it. No way. So I have a guest in the house. I was listening when you started, and the wisdom, the comfort, this is what touched a soul and is changing life. So I just want to encourage you, ladies, please continue to do it in your office, in the neighborhood, in the community. This is a calling, so continue to do it. But as a church, we are very, very grateful that you join your friends to come and educate us. There was a lot of people watching online, so a lot of people are going to hear this wonderful wisdom you share with us. So thank you so much. And Grace, please, the gospel is all around. The gospel is not just praying in tongues. Everything we do here, we put it together because what this can do, I will come here and pray in tongues and sometimes it will not solve it because it's just a wisdom or it's just something that is more than just praying in tongues. And that's why we put programs like this together. And thank God all these resources are here. They are here, they are friends, they can call on them, and it's in-house for us. So let's take advantage of this. I put it on my social media. Don't suffer, silence, because this mental thing is real. So let's all of us come together and let's see how we can use the word of God, the wisdom of education, to make sure that we are winning on all fronts. But once again, thank you so much. Bishop couldn't be here because we have a guest in the house. So thank you, and God bless all of you. And your team, the Rafa Ministry, please, you are doing it. So continue to do it. Continue to come up with something greater like this every month or every other month. But you are doing it. You are doing it. So thank you once again, the team and everybody. God bless you.
We do have some refreshments for you guys out in the lobby, so please partake. If you have any questions that you want to talk to us personally about, we will be here for the next 30 minutes or so, and you're more than welcome. We are here. If you have to leave, but you won't be, you want to just leave your information and you want us to call you later on, we're more than welcome to do that as well. But thank you guys again for taking time out to come out to listening to us and educating yourself. You guys should really give yourself a round of applause, because you could have been home chilling too, but you came out, so thank you. Have a great evening. And a special thank you to Dr. Jean. Thank you so much for streaming in with us and just allowing us to hear your wisdom. We really appreciate you. Dr. Jean is a psychiatrist, although he's not in Georgia. He is in New Jersey, but he is a practicing psychiatrist and is also willing to answer questions if you have any questions for him as well. So thank you so much again.
I don't know if you have heard me. Thank you for the invitation. Hello?